right, everybody, welcome out to the pre-race show brought to you by Healthcare Billing Incorporated. My name is Sean Griffith. I am here with Brandon Domingue. Brandon, how's it going tonight, buddy?
Oh, it is not too bad. Feeling a lot better knowing that I won't be having to deal with the Monster Mile like the drivers are tonight. Very challenging racetrack. Excited to see how they do going around this mile at Delaware. How you doing tonight, though, Sean?
Man, doing excellent. Great to be back up in the booth with you. Really, this is one of those races that I actually enjoy Dover as a track. I enjoy watching the different lines that you can take. I enjoy watching the moves that are made out there on the track, but it is a little bit treacherous, especially as you get deeper in the run.
Yeah, and once those tires really start going, and it doesn't take long, the concrete does save them a little bit where you can still make it work. But yeah, once those tires start going, this track changes night and day on you, and it gets very difficult, especially with some of the way that those turns work, where you're going uphill on the exit and the car just gets so light. Really a treacherous track, as you pointed out.
Yeah, we are going to see a lot of damage coming off of 2 and coming off of 4, and that's to be expected here. But when it's a short track and when you have 35 cars out on the track like we do right now, one wrong move could really ruin a lot of people's races.
Yeah, and especially with the no fast repairs, that's something that caught a few of the guys in the Xfinity race on Thursday. So in this one, you're adding an extra 50 laps from what we had in the series that I'm running in on Thursdays. I think it's going to be a whole lot more about patience, and it's going to be a whole lot more about making sure that car is clean. And I think at the end, the cleanest car is going to be the one that's in victory lane.
Definitely, and we'll see that as we get later on into the broadcast, obviously. But this is week number 3 out of 20, so we are still very, very early in the season. It is the Dodging Delaware 200. And again, this pre-show brought to you by Healthcare Billing Incorporated. But we got 200 laps to figure it out tonight, Brandon.
200 laps, and it feels like it should go fast. You're looking at about 22 seconds a lap, maybe 24 once these tires get pretty worn out, but it feels like a long race just because of how much focus you need to have going around this racetrack, how easy it is to get into trouble. It just kind of ramps up that intensity just a little bit more mentally, and I think this is one of the more challenging tracks mentally for the drivers out there.
Yeah, and really a lot of people have been talking about the schedule that was put together this season, and this is kind of a unique schedule where you've got Daytona the first week, you had Kansas the second week, and then you get into a short track, and next week you get into a road course. So we are really challenging every driver on all aspects of racing.
And I love how that flows, too, because I think after week 4, we're going to have a good idea about who we are supposed to be watching the rest of the way through this 20-week season, through the 13-week regular season. I think it's going to be a great indicator of who our real contenders are going to be for the Championship 5 and that final race of the season in Atlanta. So I love how this schedule is laid out, the first leg of it.
Yeah, and we've got 20 weeks during the season. 13 of those weeks, the first 13 weeks, are the regular season, and then we cut it down to the top 15 drivers that make it into our playoffs. We do have fixed setups, so all the cars out there are identical. All that's changed basically is the driver.
Yeah, the drivers are really the only difference. You get a little bit with the steering ratio and with the brake bias just to make the driver a little bit more comfortable in how it'll handle, but it's not really a major change. Then you're looking at, the no fast repairs for these drivers, $15 a week on the entry fee here in our Cup Series, and that's a decent amount of money each week, but they also get a return of a very decent amount of money with these weekly and season payouts.
Yeah, $1,000 first place. And, of course, we pay out the top 8 for the playoffs, but we also pay out the top 5 in each race. And so a lot of money to be had out there, a lot of money switching hands. But we also have another little wrinkle to this. We do allow 5-person teams, and by doing that, it makes it even more interesting because, we accept the points from the 3 highest point getters on your team each week. And so let's say a couple of your drivers get into wrecks and they're out of the race. Well, those other 3 drivers, they've got to stay in at all costs.
Yeah, and that's been something that I know on Thursday night races with my striker team, we've had each week, and typically it's been me having some bad runs there, so I'm getting used to those cars. But, it just makes it where those 3 drivers that are scoring those higher points just puts a whole lot of pressure on them to make sure that they show up and have a good run and really do great job at damage control, because at some point, something's going to go wrong. You're never going to have a perfect race. So I like the pressure that's put on these teams top to bottom to try to get as many points as they can for that team playoff once we get there.
Oh, definitely. Now, as far as race payouts are concerned, each race, it doesn't matter if we have 10 people in here or 40 people in here, we pay out the top 5. So first place gets $45, second place gets 30, third gets 15, fourth gets 15, fifth gets 15. And so really that's chump change when it comes down to what's going on at the end of the season. But for those drivers out there that just have one good racetrack, this is something that you could win a little bit of money from.
Yeah, nice little boost there, and you think about it, that one race win pays off your next 3 races, and that's something that just gets you a little bit comfortable. I know that there's some drivers that just pay the full season off at the start, and then they don't have to worry about it, and then you're just pocketing $45, and that's a nice meal out for a couple people there. You have a good time there. But yeah, I really like that we do the weekly payout just to benefit and just to add to that total for the season payout.
Let's be real, man. We live in the South. That's like a good 9 meals for us, to be completely real. So McDonald's, Happy Meals, we're good to go. But as far as the season payouts are concerned, $1,000 first place, and that's where the big money is, obviously. But still, second place $600, third place $350, fourth place $200. Then it goes down from there.
Yeah, and if you're paying for every single week, even if you don't get a weekly payout, you're paying $300. So if you're getting in that top 3, you're getting more than the season fees over the course of the season. I really like that we've extended this down a little bit more too. I think it's good for everybody that is close to making that championship 5. They got something to race for in that final race, just to add that little bit of intrigue for them.
Oh, yeah, those top 5, when they get to that very last race, they're all going to be getting money. But then the next 5 drivers, only 3 of them will get money. So it is a big race for those 5 drivers as well as for the top 5. So it just kind of keeps the drama going, which is really what this is all about. And we did the same thing in the team championship as well, just to kind of keep that drama going.
Yeah, this season with the team championship, we'll have those 8 teams, the top 8, ranked out and seeded, and it's going to be more like a traditional best of 3 almost feel, where you're going to have the 3 races in the first round, the 3 races in the second round, then that one final race, and we're just going to cut it down in half each way. So it's going to be the first team versus the 8th, and just move on from there. Really like how that's going to flow, and think that's just going to add that extra little layer once we get to Atlanta.
Well, let's take a look here at Kane Cook. Now, Kane Cook is our sim coach. He is the guy that is in the Coca-Cola series and not doing too shabby in there either, but he knows how to get around every single one of these tracks. And so if you need a coach here on iRacing, then he is the guy to do it. Go to speedracingnetwork.com and book your time with him.
Yeah, and obviously he's had success very recently with drivers in our league, as Greg, who broadcast partner typically, got that win last week at Kansas in the Xfinity Series, and he gave a lot of that credit to Kane, working with him very closely. I've worked with him here in the off-season, just trying to get used to these Xfinity cars that we run on Thursday nights, and found a lot of help, even just in visual things. So definitely somebody to look into if you want to improve on iRacing.
So, Brandon, just really quick before we get on to our next segment, we have been notified in the YouTube chat it's only 175 laps tonight, not 200. I verified that with the admins, and that is accurate. So 175 laps, not 200 laps tonight. So maybe 25 less laps to get in some trouble here.
Every slighter chance to find trouble around Dover is a good thing. Apologies for that one. But yeah, so 175 laps, 25 fewer opportunities to get bitten by Miles the Monster out there.
Exactly. And every week now we do have a new segment this season called the Beer of the Week. So let's take you through the Beer of the Week for this week. This week's Beer of the Week comes out of Highland Brewing in Asheville, North Carolina. October is just around the corner, and Highland Brewing is setting up to release their Clawhammer Oktoberfest beer for the 11th straight year. Any beer that can maintain a following for 11 years is obviously incredible. But with the lead time that is needed to produce a lager like this, Highland Brewing has taken extra care to continuously put out one of the best fest beers brewed here in America. This beer is as timeless as it is delicious. It's toasty, light-colored, rich, full-bodied, crisp, and clean. Just like Oktoberfest, this beer is definitely German-inspired, but it's made right here in the good old US of A. So go grab a stein and try out this beer. The Beer of the Week is brought to you by Beer Street Journal, the leading publication in reviewing craft beers from across the country. Go to beerstreetjournal.com to find your next great beer. And as always, you must be 21 to enjoy, and please drink responsibly. That's right, beerstreetjournal.com. Go out there. All sorts of great articles for all sorts of great beers out there, Brandon.
Yeah, and I've been starting to browse that site ever since we got the season started a couple weeks ago. Found out they're actually located based around the Atlanta area, which I'm appreciative of, as that's where I'm around now. So I see a lot of local breweries for me, but they've done a great job of really getting out there and finding a lot of different breweries and kind of putting the spotlight on them. So that's always a good thing for local brewers.
Definitely. Now let's talk about the standings, because this is what the important stuff is here. You got James Holtzer up top with that win last week, and also a really great showing at Daytona the week before. So he's already got an 11-point lead on everyone.
Yeah, he's almost gotten max points for what's possible in those first 2 weeks. I've been really impressed with Reese Schaefer as well. You see him sitting in that second position. He's come in incredibly hot in these first couple of races. But then you're looking at a lot of the names that we expected to be up near the top are making their way back up there after that wild race at Daytona. You see Scott Healy, the defending champion, sitting there in third, Jake Crowell in fifth, Austin Reedy seventh, Gabriel Ellis in eighth, Dean Brummett ninth. I mean, you're starting to see Timothy Latham in 13th. A lot of the names that we expected to see up top making their way back up there.
Yeah, tons of names up here at the top of the list, but look at the bottom of the list. A whole cluster of names down here, and some of these names are big names. Kyle Spees was a playoff driver last season. They're in 19th. Who else we got? Emerson Ardon, who's a fantastic driver that was in the Xfinity Series last season. I highly expect him to move up the list. Byron McDonald as well. So a lot of great drivers here that are just not up there yet.
Yeah, and then there's a couple that just happen to miss one of the first two races, like a Max Service sitting in 35th. I think that's a name that's going to be moving up pretty quick. One of the names I want to keep an eye on, though, as the season goes on, is Nick Gowen in the 21st position. Had a great finish to the season last year in the Xfinity Series. Keep an eye on Joshua Balliet as well. He's sitting in 17th. He's not far from that cut line. I think he'll find his way above that here pretty soon. Yeah, and all these drivers have a chance, obviously, because we do have 13 weeks in the regular season before we make that cut. So lots of time to make that stuff up. But take a look at our team standings as well. Royal Motorsports is out front, and they were in all three of the leagues coming into this week. Yeah, and they've just been absolutely loaded top to bottom when it comes to their teams in all three of the series, really. So not too surprising to see them sitting in that number one spot. It's a pretty healthy gap already after the first two races. Tank Racing has done a fantastic job here this season in the Cup Series. They're sitting in that second spot. Murray Reedy Smith Road Racing, they've had a lot of turnover in the first couple of weeks, but still find themselves sitting in that third position. So I think if they get some time to gel, that's a team to definitely keep an eye on as well. Yeah, lots of great talent out there, and we're going to introduce you to every one of these teams as we get into our team introductions. And let's start off with the team leaders, Roel Motorsports. And with Roel Motorsports, they've obviously have Jake Roel on the team, but they also have our defending series champion Scott Healy in that number 64 car. Nick Gowen mentioned earlier, he's a very hot finish out of the Xfinity Series last season. Dean Brummett, one of the longtime drivers in the league. And then the winner from last week and the current points leader, James Holtzer, is going to be in that 42 car. I mean, Scott Healy, the winner of last season, and he had a great run this past week, so he's moved his way up the list. I mean, so be on the lookout for him. James Holtzer may be the points leader, but there are literally four other guys on this team that could take that away from him at a moment's notice. Yeah, and they've had that little bit of talk, like they want to have all five of their drivers in that championship five, and you know what, the caliber of drivers that they have, it's not out of the question. Nope, not at all. Now let's move on to another high caliber team in Tank Racing, and they've been practicing all season long, or all off season, to get to this point, and they've done a great job of doing that, but their lineup is stacked. Yeah, and I think that one, they were almost a little bit of a sleeper team coming into this season, but they have gelled incredibly quickly. You have Joshua Balliet in the 7 car, Reese Schaefer second in the point standings in the 17, Emerson Ardon in the 57, Seth Berger in the 77, and Max Service, who's back after some health issues there in week 1. He's in the 81 car.
Yeah, great to have him back. So be on the lookout for Tank Racing, but don't look past Murray, Reedy, Smith Road Racing. And I know that's a mouthful, but a lot of teams and a lot of people have kind of combined together to form this team. And tonight we're going to see Jacob Smith for the first time this season. The last time we saw him, I think he finished second in the series last season.
Yeah, and this is a team that they're finally coming together really for the first time. You mentioned this is Jacob Smith's first race of the season. Austin Reedy has had a great start to the season. I've also seen some good flashes from Kyle Benson in that 10 car. Craig Lautenslager and John Honeycutt have had some solid starts as well. I think both of them have just kind of gotten caught up in some stuff in these races. So this is a team that I think is going to need a little time to gel, but once they do, I really like their chances.
Definitely lots of great talent there, but take a look at R&D Motorsports, and one of the things that I've got put up there is Minivan Vacation. So a new paint scheme for David Duke here tonight. His wife started a business called Minivan Vacations. It specializes in Disney vacations as well as other traveling vacations. So wanted to kind of plug her really quick there. So take a look at minivanvacations.com and take a look at David Duke's car there on the 78.
Well, that is a car that will stand out for sure. And rest of R&D Motorsports, I know we're running a little short on time. We got the Timothy Latham in the 5 car, Brian Mabry, one of the new drivers in the league, in the 15, Jordan Sailors in the 55, and then David Duke in that Polka Dot 78.
Next up, we got Rev Racing, the original, and the reason we call it the original is because there's another Rev Racing team out there called Rev Reloaded, but on the original team, you got Byron McDonald, Scott Claw, Gabriel Ellison, we'll talk about him in a second, Kyle Spees, and Christopher L. Lawrence.
Yeah, and this is a team that it's a little surprising to see them 4th in the standings right now, just looking at the quality of drivers they have top to bottom. I think that this is a team that just needs a little bit of momentum their way, and they're just going to take off.
Yeah, keep in mind Gabriel Ellison took second in this race last season, and so he is out looking for a little bit of revenge there. But let's talk about Stryker Motorsports, and both of us have Stryker Motorsports kind of in our hearts here.
Yeah, obviously I run with them on Thursday nights in the Xfinity Series and had my rookie year in the trucks last season with them as well. Here this season in the Cup Series, first Cup season for Stryker, will be Mike Lewis in the 05, Bo Brady in the 19, Raul Meza, who's had a great start to the season, sitting in the top 10 in points in the 37, Kyle Johnson in the 48, and Joe Ruggles Jr. in the 96.
Next up, we got Rev Reloaded. This is that second Rev team, but don't look past them being the second of anything because, believe me, they've got some teammates themselves. So Michael Politis, Casey Feaster, Jeffrey Vickery, and Dalton Tucker out there trying to make themselves look good while still trying to, pass that other team.
Yeah, and the name that's really stood out, and we got this car showing right there in that 73, is Dalton Tucker. Hasn't had the finishes just yet, but there have been moments where you see a ton of speed out of that 73 Mustang. I think that's something that if he gets a good finish here, just going to start getting that snowball effect going for him.
Yeah, the last team we have out here right now is Ramsey Cole Racing. So a new team to the series this season. There's only a couple of drivers on this team, so still a little bit of space to add a few drivers if they choose to do so. But Andrew Lewis and Ty Cole have actually been really good on their own. So don't look too far past them. If they get a couple teammates here, they could make a run.
Yeah, they've had a solid start individually for each of them, and they're kind of playing on that penalty kill. I know we got a lot of hockey fans in SRN where they're just down a man the entire time at this point by only having this 2-car team. But one thing that does do for them is they have a lot of communication just with those 2 drivers, and it's kind of worked with them pretty well. They're just going to be in that deficit in points just because of the sheer number they can get each week.
Yeah, it's just really, really tough to get all those points. And right now I only see Ty Cole out there, so I'm not sure what's going on with Andrew Lewis tonight. But always good to have them out there on the track because they're very, very good, talented drivers. But we've got some other independent drivers out there that are talented as well. Jovi Ray and Landon Lacey coming up from the Truck Series. Brian O'Shell, who is just an independent driver here. And then Chad Wampler. Welcome back, Chad Wampler. One of our drivers from a couple seasons back, actually. So great to have Chad Wampler back, a former winner here at SRN.
Yeah, somebody that actually predates my time with SRN. So good to see somebody make their way back to the picture. And obviously we've seen a lot of speed from both Jovi and Landon when they've had their starts up here in the Cup Series this season. So those are names to keep an eye on, even though they're listed as the independent drivers tonight.
Yep, so let's go out there on the track right now as qualifying has wrapped up. And we've got James Holtzer himself out there on the pole. Dalton Tucker from Rev Reloaded there in second. Landon Lacey running as an independent tonight, again up from the Xfinity Series in third, and then Dean Brummett from Royal Motorsports there in fourth.
And then in row number 3, we'll have Jacob Smith starting in the 5th position, making his series debut this season. Jake Rowell out of Rowell Motorsports going to be on the outside in the 6th position. Row 4 is going to be Reese Schaefer, currently second in the points for Tank Racing. He'll be starting 7th, and Bo Brady will be on the outside starting in 8th for Stryker Motorsports.
On the 5th row, you got Scott Kalal from Rev'd Racing, and then Austin Reedy, one of the namesakes of Murray Reedy Smith Road Racing, one of the many namesakes there, it seems like. Kyle Benson starts off on row 6 for Murray Reedy Smith Road Racing, and Gabriel Ellison, like we mentioned earlier, came in second in this race last season, also the cleanest driver last season, so look out for him, but he's starting off in 12th.
Yeah, and I think that's going to go a long, long way. I mean, really just Daytona alone, Gabriel wound up having about as many incident points as he had all season last season, just getting caught up in some of those issues there at the first race of the season. But I think his ability to stay clean is going to go a long, long way once again here at Dover.
Definitely, and this is the kind of the time where you and I, we take our picks, we take our guesses, and really that's all this is a guess, because we literally have 35 drivers out there that could win this race.
Yeah, and especially with the fixed setup, the way everything is, and we also have about half this field was not running in the Cup Series last season. So there's a lot of drivers that we're still getting accustomed to when it comes to these things. One of those drivers is Dalton Tucker, and that's going to be my pick tonight, because I was saying earlier, a lot of speed out of that 73 Mustang. There he is right there. I really just like the pace that he's shown. Him starting up here, I think if he can keep this one clean all day, I think that's going to take him to a strong, strong finish.
Yeah, and anybody that drives there for Rev Reloaded or Rev Racing, believe me, they have practiced this track inside and out all week long. You know, my pick is going to go a little bit further back, actually. So I am going to actually go all the way back to that 12th position where Gabriel Ellison sits. And just because he was the super clean driver last season, he is on a team now with Rev Racing where they've worked on these long runs and short runs. He's really got this thing going. I really see him doing this.
Yeah, that is a very, very safe pick, especially if you're looking even just at a top 5. But I think for the win, that's also a safe pick, a strong one right there with Gabriel.
Well, we're going to find out here shortly. 175 laps, and we will figure out who the winner is. But James Holtzer is going to get our first start of the evening. Dalton Tucker on his outside, and they'll wait for that green flag, and then they will take off on this nice, long, short track. And there they go. So James Holtzer out to that early lead, getting into that first turn as things already start to shuffle in the back.
Yeah, on Thursday on Wednesday, we saw a lot of single file racing pretty quickly. Nobody really wanting to challenge this side-by-side for too long. Here on the Cup side, they're still going pretty side-by-side through this first lap. Now starting to get single file. They probably just heard me start talking about it. As you see everybody starting to file in, but it's James Holtzer out in front by a quarter second here pretty quickly.
Yeah, this is a long, long race, even though it is a short track. That's why I said the long, short track. But nice, long race here. So I think everybody would be very wise to go ahead and just kind of tuck in for a few laps, get used to the track, get used to the other people around you, and then you can start picking them off one by one.
Oh. So Scott Kalal back there around the 8th position got very sideways, and that is easy to do coming out of turn 4 especially, because the track, we mentioned it earlier, the track goes downhill into the turn and then it comes up the hill for that banking to work. But when it does that, that car just gets super light, and Kalal came out of turn 4 and it just caught that light point, and he had to do a great job saving that car from going into the inside wall. Yeah,
we've already got a couple people scraping that outside wall, and believe it or not, just scraping that wall here can really help you lose some speed. So got to stay off that wall tonight. That's going to become more and more difficult as that rear end starts to kick out.
Yeah, and it's a big thing here. You think about it as a short track. I think it's kind of a pseudo short track, it being a mile and as high speed as it is. Oh, we got some big trouble almost back there. Not quite sure who that was at that glance. I want to say it was right in front of this, actually. But we watched Chad Wampler in that 87, but we had one get very sideways and did a great job of saving it. But you see John Honeycutt in that gold and white number 50 with some significant damage to the back of that car.
Oh, and there we go. Oh, Chad Wampler into the wall. That's going to bring out our first caution. Oh, huge hit.
For a few more.
David Duke in the minivan vacations car is going to be spinning. Chad Wampler in that beautiful Cobra Kai car, and if you haven't seen Cobra Kai, go check that thing out. It's amazing. But a lot of damage in this very first wreck. So let's go to our first wreck replay and see what we can make out of it.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to have about a half dozen cars in our first Beer Street Journal wreck replay. As always, please drink responsibly as we check out this opening caution. And this is about a lap after we saw a near caution happen, but coming out of turn 4, John Honeycutt has that damage on the back of the car. Not sure if that really added anything. See somebody getting into the wall right in front of him. I think that was Christopher Lawrence. But then on the recovery of it, 50 goes into the 87, into the inside wall. And then this is a self-cleaning track. You expect everybody to stay down on that inside wall when they wreck because the way that it's banked. But they shot right back up the track, and there was nowhere for a few other drivers to go. See Raul Meza do a great job getting just outside of that. And I believe it was Mike Lewis on back all getting caught up in this.
Yeah, you can see John Honeycutt just gets into that outside wall ever so slightly. It bounces him down, and that's what causes this entire thing. But, oh, yeah, tons of cars there not having any place to go. So we are definitely going to lose some drivers.
And that's a great job. Mentioned Raul Meza kind of threading the needle there. Also saw Byron McDonald and Brian O'Shell do a great job getting woed up. So they did not get involved in that one. But it looks like we're going to see about 6 cars taking some pretty heavy damage.
Yeah, we've got about 8 cars in the pits right now. Actually, 9, I believe, in the pits right now. So, and all of them are taking some damage repairs, I believe. So we will see how that works out for everybody. But keep in mind, we also do have tire limits here tonight. So you can't just run into the pits and get tires every single time you want to. You got to be very, very aware of how many tires you've taken.
Yeah, there's 6 sets of tires for tonight's race. And you think about it, that's about an average of 30 laps per set of tires. And that was something that it didn't really come into play on Thursday night, but it was a thought in the back of the mind because we had a lot of cautions in the first half of the race before getting into that long green flag run, and there was a little bit of chatter on our team radio at least about like, hey, when do we want to start thinking about the saving these tires, or when are we going to start using them? Because it felt like there was going to be a lot of cautions in the race before we started thinning the field a little bit.
Yeah, Thursday's race really became a fuel strategy race, and it was a lot of excitement up here in the booth as well as down there on the track as people were trying to figure out what their pit strategy was going to be.
Yeah, and that was something I took a shot at. I felt like I was probably around 15th to 20th. I was sitting in that 22nd position and thinking, you know what, if this thing stays green, I'll be pretty close, may as well try it. And I was going to be about 2 miles short of making it to the end and had to give up second position with a couple laps remaining. But worth a shot, but it's definitely something. If you get about 60 laps away, 65 laps away, if you're good at saving fuel, you might have a shot at it if it stays green the rest of the way.
Yeah, some of these drivers, even though it's 175 laps and we're only on lap 9 right now, some of these drivers are already thinking about what's our pit strategy the rest of this race.
Yeah, and honestly, if it went green the entire way, which obviously it won't now, and that was a long shot to begin with, you could feasibly make this distance on 2 pit stops. You're looking at a good 60 laps of fuel each time you fill it up, because we got the 13-gallon fuel cell as opposed to the 18 as we run the 70% version, just for the little bit of extra strategy with running the shorter distance. But I think with all the cautions thrown in, it really just makes it a game of, all right, what's the leader doing? What's everybody around me doing? Because with Dover, it's a big thing where you don't want to give up a whole lot of track position needlessly because it is a little difficult to get by.
Definitely, and we're about to see those drivers out there try to get by each other one more time. It looks like James Holtzer is going to choose the outside lane, which, again, that is their right to choose that. So we will see how that works out for him as we go back around the back stretch here, and then we're going to get this thing restarted.
I'm thinking that might actually be more of a team play right there, because we're looking right behind him. We have Dean Brummett in fourth, and then Jake Rowell in sixth. I think he's trying to get the team lined up a little bit, see if he can help them gain a position or two on this restart by having that little bit of communication about when he's going to make the jump.
Yeah, and we have seen Rowell Motorsports do this in every race this season, where basically they have gotten lined up and then they have taken the entire field by storm, and that's why they were the point leaders coming into these all three of these series coming into this week. So we'll see how that works out as James Holtzer gets a great restart there on the outside, and he is going to go crazy there, but Dean Brummett gets a good restart too. Going to try to take this position on the outside from Landon Lacey.
Trying to make that outside work, and he's going to get a good run of steam coming out of turn number 2 into the 3, and there's that inside advantage through the middle of the turn. Going to get a little bit more momentum coming off the turn, but it's not enough as Landon Lacey had that momentum through the turn, and we got a caution back out on the track.
Yeah, it looks like it might be Mike Lewis in the wall back here in the back.
And he lost that at an interesting spot. I don't think that's going to be something where he just got loose. It might have had a little help there, because typically you'll see that on the straightaway a car spun around, if that's the case. But we'll take a look here at our second Beer Street Journal Rec replay of the night. And it comes on lap number 12, so we're off to a quick start here on these cautions. And there's the 05, that orange and red Striker Motorsports car. See what happens here is he's on the outside. You see him bouncing around a little bit, which looked a little uncomfortable. And then just came right down across the 54 of Brian O'Shell. Not sure if he saw that he was there or thought he was clear. That contact does send him around.
Yeah, taking another look at it from a little bit of a higher angle. And so Brian O'Shell just down there on the bottom of the track, and it looks like Mike Lewis just comes right down.
Yeah, and that might be something. I'm not sure if Mike has a live spotter or if he's using a programmed spotter that some apps have that are available, or just the iRacing spotter. Sometimes there's a little bit of a delay in telling you somebody's there. Might not have known that, but you see heavy damage already to that 05. And that might be something that was setting up why he was just looked really unstable going through that turn already. But yeah, definitely it looks like he thought he was clear and was not clear in the middle of that turn.
Yes, and that replay brought to you by Beer Street Journal. Again, please drink responsibly, but we appreciate them for sponsoring that rec replay as well as our entire broadcast. Yeah,
great partner. I know there's a lot of beer drinkers that are part of SRN, and always enjoy a good one, and great resource to learn more about some of the breweries out there and what's being offered, because there's always a whole lot of options, a lot more than I think anybody even realizes. So that's a great resource to learn about more of them.
Well, now James Holtzer has the decision to make. Does he take the top or the bottom here? Because he's got Dean Brummett in third, who will be restarting on the bottom side, and then Jake Rowell, his other teammate, on the top side in fourth.
I think at this point you take the inside. If there's no team strategy involved, or it's level team strategy, I would go inside just because it's a little bit more comfortable. I think if you get pinned on the outside, it's just a little bit more of a tricky position to be in. Not quite as bad as it would be with the Xfinity cars, like we saw on Thursday, but because you get a little bit more downforce here with these Cup cars. But I would still say inside is probably going to be the right play for anybody to have the lead on these restarts.
Yeah, just looking out there on the track, and still looks like a lot of damaged cars just from those first two cautions, but it looks like the top 22 at least are still relatively clean.
And that's going to be the story of this race, and I hate to say it for really a second week in a row, and it's for different reasons. Last week, Kansas kind of drove like a Darlington-style race because you're running up by the wall the entire time. This one is going to be somewhat similar and mostly like a short track race in general, because you really just want a clean car. You keep it clean, you're still going to have speed. There's a lot of aero damage that can happen, and aero penalties, I should say, that can happen if you get a little little damage on that car. Cleaner you keep it, better it's going to handle through this tight track.
Yeah, James Holtzer has led from start till now, so no real surprise there. But if you take a look at Jovi Ray, started off in the 31st position. He is already up to 19th.
Yeah, he's been the big mover of this race thus far, gaining those 12 positions. I don't think there's anybody that's moved up double figures just yet. Aside from him, the closest one looks like Joe Ruggles from 34th to 26th. So a great run thus far for Jovi and Joe, both moving up through the field here pretty quickly.
Yeah, looking out there on the track, and not a ton of other big movers at all. And so, again, just kind of biding their time a little bit. It still got plenty of race to go. We're not even 10% into this thing yet.
Yeah, it's so easy to get in trouble, and you can even see something where on the last lap you think you're good, like you're not really around anybody, and then somebody spins out in front, and all of a sudden that track gets blocked. They don't move around the track like you expect them. We talk about it being a self-cleaning surface because of how it's banked on the straightaway. It kind of tilts the cars back down, wants to roll them towards that inside wall, but sometimes they don't want to do that. And they kind of go where you don't expect them to. So trouble can jump out at you at any time here, and that is a reason why they call it the Monster Mile.
Yeah, and you know, David Duke can attest to that. No fault of his own. He just got involved in that wreck, and I don't think his wife's going to be too happy about what he did to the car.
Yeah, that's got her company on there in that first week, and that is a crumpled up polka dot car right now, but still a good-looking paint scheme at least.
Oh, definitely. Back up front, we get the restart. James Holtzer takes off once again. He chose that bottom side. He had Dean Brummett down there on the bottom, and now we are trying to figure out who is going to come out in second after this turn. Landon Lacey there on the outside trying to make it work, but that inside line's looking good for Dean Brummett.
Yeah, that inside line, you can really drive it in deep and make that stick pretty well, especially through 3 and 4, but we're seeing Landon Lacey do a great job of making it stick on the high side, and he's actually going to clear Brummett as they come to that start-finish line, complete our first lap after this restart.
Yeah, it didn't look like Dean got nearly as deep as Landon did the last time that there was a restart, and that's why Dean did not get as much of a run there on the inside as Landon did originally, but Landon just coming up there in that second spot. Now, he is the 35 on our scoreboard. He is the 53 on his car. A little bit of a mix-up there because he is visiting this week.
Yeah, he is trying to clear up a whole lot, though, because now he's taking a look on the inside of the race leader, James Holtzer, and Landon Lacey is just making this car stick to it like it's on rails. That is a great job. That was a quick pass, and Landon Lacey pulling away right after making that pass for the lead.
Yeah, and so as he starts to kind of pull away, we'll remind you that he did race on Thursday night, did very, very well in that race until he got involved in some incidents there. But really a great driver in Landon Lacey. This is one of those series that last season he raced here in the Cup Series, did extremely well here. But this season decided to race down in the Xfinity Series instead.
Yeah, and after that truck race on Wednesday where he was joining us in the booth, we all, Greg, myself, and Landon all had a little bit of time to go into that practice session that we had set up for the Xfinity race on Thursday. And Landon, within about 5 laps of jumping into the car, already had the fastest time by a good bit, and it was just easy for him. And it was just, it felt like a game with how quick he was moving around this track. Outstanding driver when it comes to Dover.
Definitely. Now, these front 11 cars all within 2 seconds, and so really not a ton of separation here as Dean Brummett still works on Landon just a little bit, but Dean's not going to scrub off those tires very much.
Yeah, and this is where it's a little bit weird because we've seen it how these races have played out this week. Saw caution after caution after caution early on for both the trucks and the Xfinity race, where it almost got a little annoying being behind the wheel on Thursday, seeing all the cautions come out. But then all of a sudden it just opened up. We had that long 60-lap green flag run to finish the race. I think that's something you have to be mindful of, is that, there is danger at any point around this track, but you can also get a super long green flag stretch, and if you burn up your tires instantly, that is a far, far drop that you'll have if you're already worn out 30 laps in and it stays green.
Yeah, Landon already getting into some lap traffic there as he passes Chad Wampler, as Wampler just kind of stays out of everybody's way. But Landon has moved away from Dean Brummett by about half a second now, and Dean's still got James Holtzer right on his tail.
It almost makes me wonder if this is a different style of what do I want to do? Do I want to focus on long term? Do I think we're done having those quick cautions after one after the other? Or do I think it's going to continue to go? I think from what I'm seeing, Landon Lacey's expecting a little bit more of these cautions to show up. And I think from Holtzer on back, maybe thinking that we're going to see a long run here.
Yeah, I got to say, I saw Jake Rowell. He had a little bit of an inside peek there on Dalton Tucker, and he chose not to take it. And so I think that just means that he's starting to kind of settle in. Let's just kind of relax for a little while. Now, he does have Jacob Smith, a former teammate, right on his bumper.
That was a dicey moment there as you saw that 9 get very squirrely. Going into turn number 3.
Whoa,
we got a couple cars.
again.
We got Jovi Ray. We got Seth Berger around in turn 4. See Bo Brady and Raul Meza as well. Teammates getting collected in this one with each other. And those are a couple big names that have been doing very well this season in their starts. All taken out here on our 3rd caution of the night.
Well, let's go to another wreck replay brought to you by Beer Street Journal and find out exactly how this all happened back here, as Jovi Ray, usually a very clean driver, not very many incidents to his name. So interesting to see him involved here. Let's see where it stemmed from. Oh, wow, it just...
Wow. Just flat lost it there going into 3. That's not something you see a whole lot here at Dover either. And Seth Berger, not really much of anything he could do on that one, as he was right behind Jovi. Doesn't look like the damage is too terrible on either. I think the ones that got the most damage might have been the 19 of Bo Brady and the 37 of Raul Meza in the follow-up of all this.
That was a little bit bizarre that he just kind of started coming around. I'm not really seeing anything there that would have caused that.
You know, I'm starting to look ahead. That's what I think might have happened.
Check
you
up
see all
ahead.
That contact. Yeah, you see all that contact there with the 19 that got him turned around. And I think he got on the brakes a little bit at an awkward point there trying to check up, and it just snapped his car around. Oh, wow. So it was the Kyle Benson in the 10 got down on the apron, and I think that just set off everything there. And wow, that's a heavy impact there for the 37 on the nose. That's going to be trouble. But seeing Benson on the apron, you see that little bit of contact with Austin Reedy. He makes his way back up, gets into the 64. Scott Keeley, wow, some big names here in this one that were kind of sneakily in that. So we'll have to see how that damage plays out for those drivers. But that's what I think really set off everything, and just everybody trying to check up and avoid it, not get to that point where they're getting collected and they wind up putting themselves into danger.
Yeah, most drivers pitting now, so everybody from 5th all the way back on the list right now, all pitting. Byron McDonald still has not pitted at all in this race there in the number 3 car, so he will assume that lead. Jeffrey Vickery right behind him in the 21, so that 78 is a lap down. Jeffrey Vickery in the 21 will be in 2nd, and Joe Ruggles in 3rd. So those two pitted on lap 13, but I don't show that Raul Meza in the 37 is pitted until now. Now they're coming down.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised to see how long some of those damaged cars were staying out there, so they weren't too concerned about any engine issues, it seems. But Byron McDonald going to try to stay out there beyond lap 30. We've had about 8 or 9 caution laps by the time we go back green, so there's going to be some pretty decent wear on those tires. That's something I would keep note of if I'm Landon Lacey on back, especially if I'm James Holtzer. Byron does take the inside line. James is going to be right behind him. Getting worn tires on this concrete surface can be a little bit dicey on these restarts.
Yeah, but Landon Lacey is actually loving this right now, because whichever lane Byron chooses to take, Landon's going to be in the other lane on fresh tires. He might be able to pass him before they even get to lane or to turn 1.
And in an ideal world, that's exactly what he's hoping for. The thing he doesn't want to see happen is Byron takes off just well, but those tires don't want to grip when they get into the turn if they're side by side. If he's on the inside, those tires don't quite catch the way he thinks. That might shoot Byron up the track and get him into Landon. So it's a best of both worlds kind of thing. Like, yeah, if you beat them to that turn, it's a great thing. You're going to gap them pretty quickly. But if you're side by side, that could be a very dangerous combination.
Yeah, this is where every single decision on the track matters, whether it's under caution or out there on the track. You saw a few things that happened in that caution where you had a driver that checked up because he saw some contact up in front. You had other drivers that didn't check up, which, everything got all jumbled together, but now you've got pit strategy as well. So every decision that you make here is important and can affect your race.
And speaking of decisions, looks like Byron McDonald going to take the outside line. So Dean Brummett going to be the one on edge quite a bit. But I don't mind this call to be on the outside when you're on older tires, because you're not going to be trying to pinch it down to the inside as much. You can kind of get a little bit more leeway, even though the outside doesn't quite have the grip that inside line does. It's not such a tight radius that it's easier to get into trouble. I probably would have pitted at this point, seeing everybody else haven't done it. But if you're going to try it, outside line, probably the way to go at this point.
Yeah, we saw this a little bit in the Xfinity race as well, where you have a car that has some older tires out there, and really the strategy here is just stay out for about 10 or 15 laps. If you can stay out for 10 or 15 laps and then there's a caution, you're looking really, really good because you just gained all those positions. Keep in mind that Byron McDonald started in 28th and now he's in first.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot that you can get, but there's trouble if this thing stays green for quite some time. And just on that restart alone, you see the difference in the tire quality as Landon Lacey goes right on by. Dean Brummett getting in that same position. Here comes Jacob Smith, James Holtzer, and we're going to see Byron McDonald start free falling here pretty quickly on those old tires.
Yeah, he fell he's all the way down to 7th after turn 2.
And that is just, you're looking at a drop-off of about 1/10 of a second every lap once you get past like lap 3 or 4. And that's something that is significant, and that'll build up for a good 20 laps or so. So you're about 2 seconds a lap slower, and you're looking at 22 seconds a lap or so around this track. It goes by quickly, and if you have those worn tires, you will drop back a good second or two every single time compared to fresh tires.
Landon Lacey has a little bit of company here. Dean Brummett going down to the inside, trying to get a little bit of a run there. He almost got up to the bumper, but Landon Lacey starts to pull away just a little bit more.
And this is just a tough track to make that pass on, because you really have to set it up the series of turns before. It's very unlikely are you going to see somebody get onto somebody's bumper right on the straightaway and make a pass in that first turn. We got trouble once again. Huge trouble on the front stretch.
Mike Lewis turned.
And we got a lot of carnage elsewhere as well.
Oh, wow. And Byron McDonald involved.
Yeah, Byron McDonald, Seth Berger for a second time tonight. A lot of big names here in this one on the front stretch. Not sure what happened there, though. My gut might tell me it might involve old tires and that fall off there with the time differences. We'll kind of confirm that here with our 4th Beer Street Journal Rec replay of the night.
Let's start off with Byron McDonald, because he was involved in that, and he was free falling backwards. And yeah, he just, I'm not sure if he got tapped with that, but man, big damage.
Oh. So Kyle Spees heavy hit, Kyle Johnson heavy hit in the 48. The 77 of Seth Berger nearly going upside down against that inside wall. We might see a handful of drivers here done for the night with some of the impacts that they had. And I think that is just the tough part, where you got those fresh tires. You're going to be a good second or two faster every single lap. And just that speed difference, you're catching people at a rate that you are not used to at this point in the race. And I think for the 10 of Kyle Benson, he was just so much faster getting out of that turn. They make that contact. Possible as well that Byron did not quite get the grip that he needed, and maybe he had to check up a little bit as well to try to stay off that wall. But just the speed difference there is what really caused that wreck, and we're seeing a good half dozen drivers caught up in that one.
Yeah, big wrecks there, and it's going to be interesting to see what the call is from the admins if they do charge a cause caution to somebody. Byron was on older tires, but not sure that's there was a little bit of touch in there as well. So I mean, it's going to be tough to call.
Ask and you shall receive. Right as you were asking that, it came across Kyle Benson EOL penalty. And I will assume that is for the caused caution rule, even though he does have heavy damage and is still sitting on pit road. He will be the one receiving that EOL.
Yeah, and that's a new rule here in SRN this season. A lot of people were asking for that rule, believe it or not, because they were worried that there was not as much clean driving. And so what we have done is we've made it so every caution, the admins will look at it, and if we can determine as admins, or not we, the admins can determine if there was a cause to that caution, that person is going to get an end-of-line penalty.
Yeah, and we haven't seen every single caution result in one of those penalties. I know last week at Kansas we saw a few of those cautions where no penalty was given off. It was just a pure racing incident, and sometimes that will happen. But here on this one, they do determine Kyle Benson at fault for that one, so he will get the penalty and go to the back of the line. As we take a look once again at the top 15, and one of those names in that top 15 is Kyle Benson. He was caught up in that last accident, as was Kyle Johnson, sitting in the 14th position. Seth Berger in the 4th position, caught up as well. So half of the drivers in that wreck were in the top 15 in the points. Also, half the drivers in that wreck were named Kyle, which is a little bit weird. But yeah, so we've seen some big shakeup here in the point standings when it comes to that top 15.
Yeah, and again, really early in the season, but that's where those big shakeups happen, is early in the season. And this is the time where a lot of drivers, they don't really consider this early part of the season as importantly as they should. They consider, weeks 11, 12, and 13, and they worry about those a lot. But this is the time where you can sneak a couple points here, a couple points there, and really change your season.
Yeah, and I'll use myself as an example on Thursdays. I've had a rough transition getting used to the Xfinity cars and haven't had a top 20 finish just yet, and that's something that gets on your mind. You do have a couple of those drop weeks that you can use. We don't take every score every single week through the regular season. Do have that allowance in there, but I'm looking at 3 poor finishes for what I would like, and all those 3 drop weeks are already gone. I got to be on my game the rest of the season at this point. And that's something that you're mindful of if you're really thinking about the points early on, and it adds that little bit of stress if you get off to a slow start.
Somebody that we'd like to talk about here is Timothy Latham. Keep in mind, the last season here at Dover, he led some laps. I believe he led 17 laps here, so he knows his way around Dover. And then he got into a little bit of trouble, a little bit of damage, and he had to kind of get pushed back the pack. But he has a couple wins here in Speed Racing Network, so don't be too shocked if you see him move up even further. But he's already up 6 positions on the race.
Yeah, even with that issue that he had at Dover last season, did lead 17 of those laps, like you pointed out, had an 8th place finish, and on similar tracks like Phoenix and Bristol, averaged about a 7th place finish. So somebody that's definitely a threat, not just for a top 10, but for contending at the win as this race plays on.
And as we are coming around, the pace car will dive off, and Landon Lacey will once again get the restart there on the bottom side of the track. And he takes off and leaves everyone in the dust. Jacob Smith going to try to follow him through, try to sneak second place away from former teammate Dean Brummett.
Very quiet race thus far for Jacob Smith, but continuing to move his way through the field, and he now finds himself in that second spot, just chipping away really one position every green flag run that we've had. Just a very clean race for him thus far, and it's put him into that second spot.
Everybody knows Jacob Smith as a road racer. He is extremely talented on the road circuits, but what a lot of people don't realize is he has just as many wins on the ovals as he does on the roads. And so this doesn't shock me one bit to see him up here.
No, and you can really kind of relate short tracks and road courses pretty well just in the driving style. I think there's a lot of things that translate from one to the other. Dover is a little bit of a misnomer in that, because I really don't consider it a short track, even though it is a mile. Technically, that is the designation, just because of the way that it drives. But no surprise, regardless, seeing that 11 making his way up to the front.
But he is still trying to track down Landon Lacey, a visiting guest from Xfinity, who wanted a little bit of payback for a bad finish that he had in Xfinity this past week. So he wanted a little bit of he wanted a little bit of revenge on this track.
Yeah, and a little bit of revenge, but he's also a very, very confident Cup driver when it comes to these cars in general. You put that along with being a track that he is very strong at. Just a very good combination for Landon Lacey, and it's playing out well to a near 0.4 of a second lead pretty shortly after getting restarted. And one thing I did want to kind of go back and touch on, it looks like Kyle Benson, the EOL penalty that he was given, it's been rescinded. Those black flags were cleared shortly after we went back green.
Well, we'll get a little bit more information on that as we get a chance to do that. Landon Lacey out there, and again, up from Xfinity, one of the things that needs to be known, week 1, an Xfinity driver came up to the Cup Series and won at Daytona here. Week 2, James Holtzer won that race. Week 3, it's looking pretty good for another Xfinity driver to come up and win this race. So that doesn't mean anything against the Cup Series drivers. That just shows how much talent there is in all 3 of our series.
Yeah, I mean, you could really make the case. You watch the top to bottom quality of these series, and they're all getting rather level. Even back to the truck series, where we've got some incredibly talented drivers up at the top in that championship contention very early on. But even some of the drivers that are mid-pack and back, very, very skilled drivers when it comes to iRacing in that truck series. So I think in SRN, just the quality of drivers we're seeing from top to bottom across all 3 series has really improved dramatically in the past couple of seasons.
Yeah, keyed in here on Scott Kalal, one of our playoff drivers from last season. A lot of people thought that he was a surprise being in those playoffs, but he has proven otherwise. He is a very, very good driver. He is back here in 15th position as Seth Berger takes that spot away from him.
Yeah, and it's all about staying clean for Scott, and that's where he really goes a long way. As you see him running in the 15th position right now. And the 3 tracks similar to Dover, it was Dover, Phoenix, Bristol. Those are kind of the things I was looking at. He averaged only 4 incident points in each one of those races. Had a solid finish in all 3 of those races as well. And I think that's going to show here.
Jake Rowell hard!
The impact.
And that will bring out a caution. Massive hit for Jake Rowell.
That's the second race in the 3 this season where we've seen him have a huge impact early on in a race. Saw similar at Daytona as well, where he got some side impact heavily. And for one of the championship favorites coming into the season, it has been a rough start, having a couple of heavy impacts here this season.
Well, let's go back and find out what happened, because that was just a huge hit. I didn't really see anything around him too much. Maybe I'll see something different here. But coming off that corner, it just gets up into the wall, and that's it.
Yeah, and we keep saying that it is really easy to do. And the other part with it, too, is if you get tucked in behind somebody, you're picking up some dirty air as well. And that really makes these cars unstable. And so you watch the 73 and even the car in front of them, I believe that was Holtzer in front, it is, that they kind of even double dip in through that apex, where they kind of dive down low into 3 and then re-dive down low into 4. And you saw how low they got. They were almost touching the apron. Rowell did not quite get down to that apron. And if he's doing that every single lap, you see him, he's about 1 foot, 2 feet high of that, and that's all it takes. If you just get out of line a little bit and you got that dirty air, that's going to send you straight up into the wall.
And great work by the drivers to get around him, as he was basically in the middle of the track there. So just barely enough room on the high line and the low line to get past him there. So good job by everybody to keep that a single car wreck.
Yeah, I think the big gold star out of that is going to be Scott Healy. He missed him by a matter of inches, making his way back across. And we're looking at Dalton Tucker being our race leader, as he's one that has stayed out. Looks like we only got a handful of drivers. Maybe just he's the only one on the lead lap, it looks like. 1 of 2, actually, on the lead lap, staying out.
Yeah, the other one is Byron McDonald. And so, again, he stayed out for the longest time there. And so now he is up there technically in second place. And, again, still on older tires compared to everyone else. So we'll see if they can make it work a little bit better. But it looks like he's going to come in. But Dalton Tucker's going to stay out there. So he last pitted on lap 29. So he's on 24-lap old tires, while everyone behind him is on brand new.
And you know what? It's not terribly old. I think he's keeping in mind that there's still the tire limit. If we continue to have cautions at this rate, that's something to be definitely mindful of. The other thing is, yeah, we've been on this run for now 25 laps, but we've also been under caution for 7 or 8 of those. So it's not incredible tire wear at this point. They are going to be a little bit worn, but it's still within reason. I think he'll have some solid grip. compared to everybody. He might just be maybe a quarter second slower if they were running in like an uninterfered pace.
Yeah, we'll see how he works with that, because I know Byron, as he was dropping back, and of course he was on older tires than Dalton Tucker is currently, so maybe it's a little bit different, but it's something that you just have to be really aware of, not just yourself, but all those cars that are passing you, to know what is going on. So there's a lot of communication that has to take place there if you're on older tires.
Yeah, and even if it's 5 laps older tires, if one car stays out or one truck stays out, you will hear people in either the full-on driver chat or in team chat just kind of going like, all right, keep your eye on this guy. The tension kind of rises a little bit, because you know that there's a difference in the pace that'll be able to be held and the grip that'll be able to be held, and you just kind of wait on, all right, something's about to happen here. There's too many different strategies at this point. I think we're not far enough in the run to be that concerned about it here, but it's still something that is possible if everybody gets up to speed, and that 73 doesn't, while setting the tone here on this restart, it doesn't take much to cause a big problem.
No, not at all. And I know we had mentioned a little bit earlier, we had talked briefly about the 2-car team of Ramsey Cole Racing, and Ty Cole himself back here in 5th position there on the bottom side. So again, even though there are only 2 cars on this team, they are making it count.
Yeah, and we've continuously seen them holding some spots inside the top 10 for much of the season, both him and Andrew Lewis, who is not running tonight. So they've got speed, and they've got the ability to run towards the front. It's just kind of getting the full race together at this point, whether it be just bad luck or just kind of falling off near the end of races. But they've got the ability to be running up front, so that's a good sign for both Ty Cole and Andrew Lewis when he has been here.
Yep, as we're coming around turns 3 and 4, and then the pace car is going to dive off, and Dalton Tucker on old tires is going to get that restart, and he takes off really early. Jacob Smith follows him right through. It looks like Jacob Smith is going to get a good little run here, get down to the inside, and try to take the lead for the first time in this race.
That was a perfect restart for Jacob Smith, and we got a slide in 1 and 2. Jovi Ray turned around Gabriel Ellison into the wall in turn 2, and they're starting to stack up trying to avoid.
Yeah, Gabriel Ellison, man, the cleanest driver of last season, and the first 2 or 3 races of this season just have not been kind to him.
No, and this one, I'm not sure what happened. All I saw, and it cut over on the view that I was looking at, was just both of them getting turned around, but just an awful start to the season with just getting caught up in things for Gabriel Ellison. And as clean as he was last season, it's not anything that he's really doing continuously. He's just kind of getting caught up in some stuff. And there you see that little contact to the left rear from Seth Berger. That sent the 27 around a little bit. Jovi Ray kind of lost in that no-man zone right behind him, had nowhere to go himself in that checkup. And just a tough spot to be in there for everybody.
Not even sure if there was a touch there. May have been a little bit of net code, but take a look, and you got Byron McDonald without a hood now. You've got a few other cars out there that look like Brian O'Shell barely sneaked past, but got a bunch of cars there with some damage now.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those modified-looking cars make their way around this track, which I believe that's Bo Brady, one of the ones that are missing a nose. As we watch this again, the 77, it might have been a little bit of net code. I think there was going to be some contact there, definitely contact with Jovi Ray and Austin Reedy in the follow-up behind that as Jovi was trying to get slowed up. And that's just a tough spot on these restarts. It's like we said, it doesn't take much for trouble to find you here. And you saw that it just took maybe the slightest of touches in 1 and 2, and that sparked everything there.
Yeah, the 55 of Jordan Saylor is involved as well on that. And so, again, a lot of damage back there in the back of the pack. We do have some cars pitting right now. Looks like Austin Reedy is going to lead the way out of the pits there. He is coming out in 14th position. His tires are not going to be that much newer than the people in front of him, so not really sure if he had to fix some damage or if he just wanted to go ahead and get this done. Looks like maybe a fuel stop for him.
It could have been fuel. I know he made that contact with Jovi, and it was to the nose of his car. So I'm thinking maybe he was being a little bit cautious there, getting that damage fixed, making sure that engine doesn't go. once we get on this restart. Dalton Tucker also making a pit stop, so I think he realized that that little bit of older tires weren't really going to be doing the job there. He realized that on that restart with how quickly Jacob Smith got around him, so he came in and took tires as well.
Yeah, Jacob Smith, one of those drivers where once he's out front, it is really, really tough to catch him. He's just got that up front mentality, and you can see that especially on those road courses where when he's up front, everybody else just almost gives up because he is just so good at hitting his spots. And when you don't have to worry about those cars on your left or your right or right in front of you, you can hit your spots every single time. He is a machine that way.
Yeah, and he led 177 of 200 laps last season at this race, and that goes to what you're saying. Once he gets out in front, and I think you put it perfectly, he will always hit his spots, and that is the thing that a great road course driver will be able to do on any track, whether it's an oval or a road course. If you can learn on a road course to always find your marks, always hit it every single time, have that consistency, you will be able to do that on an oval. And if you're able to do that, that makes you just leaps and bounds incredibly difficult to pass around any track.
Well, Brandon, is it one of those things where a road course and this type of a track are similar because of the elevation change going into the turns? Because I know that's a big thing at road courses.
A little bit, yeah, because this is atypical to what you normally see at an oval. Typically, you'll see the banking and the turn will kind of go up in the altitude, basically, for a way. The elevation will go up. This one, they bury the banking down into the ground, so you're going downhill and uphill. It's different, and it does have that little bit of a feel like a coda at times, where you're getting the hilly surfaces there. But compared to most shorter tracks, this is very different. It's more like Bristol than it would be anything like a road course, which would be more like a Martinsville or a Loudon or anything like that, where you're having to really get on the brakes because of the speed that you're carrying. But I think there is that little bit to play, and I think you hit the nail on the head there just with the elevation changes.
Yeah, I mean, add that to just, again, clear skies in front of you. It is just really easy to pull away here if you can hit those spots. And Landon Lacey's going to do everything he can to keep him right there beside him. But again, Jacob Smith's so good at being up front.
And something that's going to make it harder is this has just changed to single file restarts, at least on this one. So we're going to see Jacob Smith have nobody next to him as we get restarted.
Yeah, interesting change by the admins there. I think they were just kind of tired of everybody getting bunched up right on the very first lap after a caution. They do have that ability to change that into a single file restart. So we'll see if that cleans it up here a little bit. But you can see Jacob Smith gets way out front already, about 0.6 of a second out. And it's going to be tough for anybody to get up to him very quickly.
That was a masterclass moment there from Jacob Smith. He waited until Landon Lacey got right on his back bumper and had to check up just a little bit because he knew he had a little bit too much momentum and Jacob wasn't rolling just yet. And the second that he hit those brakes behind him, Jacob Smith just took off. And that opened up that massive gap immediately.
Well, Jacob Smith, he's starting to get reeled in here by Landon Lacey. He might have gotten out front a little bit and decided, you know what, maybe I need to settle down just a hair. So Landon Lacey's starting to kind of pull him in a little bit here, but passing Jacob Smith and catching up to him are two completely different things.
Yeah, but one thing we did see was that Landon Lacey not afraid to be aggressive here, especially early on these runs, where I think he's just thinking we're going to see a lot of short green flag sprints. We're not going to see that long run, at least for maybe the first half of the race. So he hasn't been scared to really use up those tires throughout a quick portion of the run.
Timothy Latham making a move here on Emerson Ardon back here for 8th position. And so not an uncommon sight to see Timothy Latham up here in the top 10. He is definitely working his way forward.
Yeah, just picking off those positions one by one, as he did have the starting position of, I was about to say 23rd, but it changed on my screen, 14th. So just chipping away one by one. I do want to give a nod. You mentioned Emerson Ardon losing that position, falling to 9th, but he's made up 14 positions thus far after starting in 23rd. So a good run for the man behind that 57 car.
Yeah, Latham picks off another position. He is up to 7th now. So again, started off in 14th and working his way forward. The other person up here in the top 10 that's working their way forward, that's a little bit closer to the front of the pack, Scott Healy, even with a little bit of damage, he is moving up. He is up to 5th position. He does have his grandmother on the hood of his car, and I believe he ran that car last season as well and did very well in it. So we're definitely sorry for his loss. I'm not sure if it's the 1-year anniversary of that or what it is, but definitely running his grandmother's car tonight, and always good to have a grandson that does that for you.
Yeah, and no matter where that timeline is on that, obviously that's a car that definitely means something to him. Maybe gives him a little bit of added motivation there to go out there and get this run towards the front, as he's been doing all night, sitting in that top 5. But speaking of up front, Jacob Smith continuing to lead, but now only about a 0.2 of a second lead over Landon Lacey, who's really closed the gap on him.
Yeah, Landon Lacey working that car hard, and just like we were talking about earlier, he could be scrubbing off those tires awfully quickly, but he's got it into his mind that it is not going to be a long run. If it is, then he's going to start to fall off here in about 10 laps or so, and so he's got to get something done right now if he's going to get it done.
Yeah, it doesn't take long for these tires to really fall, and you're looking at about 15 to 20 laps. If you're really abusing them, you're going to just start free falling in your lap times. I think if you do a good job of just being conservative, you can really kind of cut that wear time in half, the fall off time. But if you're using them up, it is going to be significant quickly.
Yeah, Byron McDonald jumping back down into the pits again. He's got a ton of damage, so not sure if that's to repair that or if that's the end of his race or what. But back here with Jacob Smith catching up to some lap traffic. Looks like he's catching up to Bo Brady here, and he will put Bo Brady another lap down.
Yeah, Bo caught up in one of those earlier wrecks. I believe it was our 3rd caution of the night over in turns 3 and 4, and you see him without that nose on that car. Still trying to get out there and get as many points as he can, though, by continuing to turn laps here, as we see now just 21 of our drivers on the lead lap at this point in the race, 14 of them either out or multiple laps down.
Yeah, and again, this is that whole team aspect again, because Bo Brady is so damaged out there. He's 2 laps down now, and a lot of drivers would just say, you know what, I'm too damaged, I'm just going to pack it up. But right now, he is the best scoring driver on their team, and so he doesn't have that option to come back in. He needs all the points he can get for his team.
Yeah, he's the only one inside the top 25 at this point, so a long night ahead for my guys over at Stryker, with everybody getting caught up in accidents at some point in the first 75 laps of this race. But Jacob Smith continuing to just see nothing but lap traffic in front of him at this point as he goes around Jordan Stahlers. But he's still not getting too far away from Landon Lacey, who's staying within at least a half a second, if not a third of a second, every single time.
Yeah, he is right there with them. Going back a little ways, Reese Schaefer looks like he is going to get that position away from Scott Healy as he passes him to get into that top 5.
Man, I have been so impressed with this rookie to SRN, Reese Schaefer. Every single week, we've seen him sitting in a top 5 position, running for the lead at some points in these races. Daytona, Kansas, now Dover, showing he's got great competency at all the ovals. I'm curious to see what he does next week at the road course as well. But it's somebody to definitely keep an eye on as the season progresses.
Yeah, Dalton Tucker coming back to take his 7th spot back away from Timothy Latham. Not sure if Latham's got some damage or what, but he fell off very quickly there. So we will have to keep an eye on that. Kyle Benson looks like he is up there in 14th, and he is making a move here. Now, keep in mind that he had that caution, that caused caution that was rescinded, and so he is making the most of that as he moves up through the pack.
Yeah, and part of that, too, with that rule, you do have the ability to protest that ruling. And if you cause the caution, and there is a pretty heavy penalty for that if after the race it's looked at again and you do still hold that you were the cause of that caution, where there's some significant penalties for that. You'll go all the way to the back of the field, get last place points.
Oh, David Duke.
And speaking of cautions, we got another one out here. And David Duke turned around for a second time tonight. Oh.
He's headed backwards, just trying to stay out of everybody's way, and that's the best view of the house. just trying to stay out of the way and just watch as all these drivers come off the corner.
Best view since nobody hit him, but that was a terrifying view for a little bit there as he was slowly rolling backwards and not completely keeping that thing straight, but did a good job of not getting in anybody's way as he gets that thing turned back around.
Well, let's jump into another wreck replay and find out exactly what happened to Mr. Duke.
7th caution of the night as we're still in the first half of this race around lap 80 right now. And for David Duke, see him running that high line. No real contact, but he might have gotten the air taken out from him just a little bit as Joe Ruggles got under that back bumper just a touch. I don't think they made any contact, though. But either got the air taken out from under him or just running that high line, and that car just did not get settled down. It just kind of hooked on him. But it didn't look like netcode or contact there to send him sideways, but then a little contact to the side shot him up towards the wall, which does not take much to do around Dover. But don't think there was any contact here, though.
Yeah, it was just as Ruggles was going around, he just kind of lost it. And then he'll keep an eye out of his front windshield, just be sure. Oh, and those were the leaders that were coming. I think that was, as hairy as it gets.
I mean, nobody, no harm, no foul. No contact was made with anybody, but I think there's going to be a few people there thinking, just hold the brake at that point so we know where you're going to be. But, I mean, hey, he pulled that one off, still going backwards and kind of tucking it closer to the wall. But that was a hairy situation there for a few seconds.
Definitely, and we are back under caution. We have had a lot of drivers pit, so Jacob Smith will come out of the pits in 3rd. Scott Healy, Dalton Tucker, our top 2 right now, have not pitted.
And I know Dalton Tucker came in on the last caution. I believe the same for Scott Healy as well, so their tires won't be that old. We're looking at maybe about 10 laps or so. So that's not out of the question there, especially with the tire limits this year here in the Cup Series. So I think that's not a bad call. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of drop-off for either of them. I mean, if you're Dalton Tucker, you learned it last time what that's going to feel like when you have a little bit older tires. Scott Healy, I think this will be the first time he's going to be a little bit off sequence here on these tires. So be interesting to see, but I don't think that's a bad call at this point. We haven't really gone that far since the last time.
Yeah, Scott Healy last pitted on lap 52. Dalton Tucker last pitted on lap 57. Everyone else is going to have at least 22 lap fresher tires. And so just keep an eye on Jacob Smith, who pulled a phenomenal move the last time that we were in this position and was able to take that first spot away after the first turns.
I stand corrected. Wow, we got a lot more laps than I thought since that last caution. That kind of changes things a little bit. I think that's going to be a touchy situation there for both of them, having 20 green flag laps now on those tires. But you mentioned Jacob Smith and that move that he pulled off the first time, and that was with Dalton Tucker getting a good run and just kind of pulling them away into that single file spot where he could make that move. I think now side by side going to have 2 drivers. If we are going back side by side, I should change that mindset. We might be staying single file. I'm not sure if that was for all of them or just for that last restart. We'll find out here shortly as we're getting that one to go. And They are still staying single file.
You know, I was going to say, if they don't go single file here, then I would really suggest Scott Healy take that bottom side. And the reason I would suggest that is he and Jacob Smith, who's back there in 3rd, they were teammates last season. And so I would much rather be on the side of somebody that I know how they drive, and same thing with Jacob Smith. I'd much rather have Scott Healy in front of me knowing exactly how he drives and knowing that you can basically trust that person than otherwise. But right now with a single file restart, you never know what's going to happen here.
Yeah, and one thing I do expect is Jacob Smith on those fresher tires, he is going to get a launch through 1 and 2 compared to our top 2 on those older tires. I'm not sure which way he's going to go. I would think you're going to see that 11 try to run the outside and try to whip around these front 2 cars on their older tires, but you never know how it's going to play out once we get started.
And the pace car will dive off, and we will see how these old tires hold up as Scott Healy will get the restart. He takes off Dalton Tucker right behind him, and let's see how quickly these guys from behind get caught up.
Very cautious on that restart for Jacob Smith. He sat back about a couple car lengths, making sure that those guys did take off. And I thought maybe he was thinking that he was going to get a run by sitting back there and then trying to jump into it. Maybe mistimed it a little bit, or just was playing completely safe, making sure that they didn't get sideways in front of him. But now here comes that run through 3 and 4, and he's going to whip right around that 73 of Dalton Tucker, and those fresh tires paying off in a big way.
Yellow
We got
flag.
caution on the track yet again. It's the 13 of Craig Lautenschlager. Saw the 21 car as well of Jeffrey Vickery get caught up in the follow-through of this, and we're under the 8th caution of the night.
Well, let's find out what happened to Craig Lautenschlager as we go to another Beer Street Journal Rec replay. And Beer Street Journal getting their money's worth here tonight.
And last season at Dover, 200 laps, we had 3 cautions. Tonight we're 82 laps in. I've already seen 8, as this one looks like the 13 of Lautenschlager just started dropping down out of turn 4, maybe got a little bit loose, and then came across the nose of, I believe that was the 77 of Seth Berger. It might have been the 10 of Kyle Benson. Kyle Benson. Similar colors there. Yeah, he definitely just got loose and came across the nose and got that little bit of assistance there getting turned around. Kyle Spees, a little bit of damage to the side, but Jeffrey Vickery got the heavy impact of that one to the nose as he came up on that 13.
I believe there was another car that got a little bit of damage as he passed by. We'll see if maybe we can catch who that was. Right there. I did not see who that was. I'm not sure if you did.
It was hard to tell through the wall of what number that was. Didn't quite get the right angle on it. This one might be the good shot here where we can figure that out. And yeah, you just see that 13 get loose on those cold tires.
The 99.
99. So Christopher Lawrence came through on that one. Had nowhere to go on that. He was either run it right into the wall or door the 13, and he tried to thread that needle and almost pulled it off, but a little bit less space than there was the car width.
Well, Jacob Smith.
Jacob Smith? No, okay. Thought he was coming down to the pit road, but he's on 1 and 2, just running on the apron.
Yeah, he's just down there on the bottom side. But Jacob Smith did take that lead as we had a couple of drivers decide to pit there. So it looks like Scott Healy and Dalton Tucker both came into the pits, which will give up that lead right back to Jacob Smith. And Landon Lacey will be there in second once again.
This is an interesting point in the race. So we're right around halfway. You know it's a 60 to 65 lap fuel run that you can make, and at this point you got to be thinking, all right, we've thinned the field quite a bit. We've already had almost triple the amount of cautions we had at this race last season, and we've done it in less than half of the amount of laps. 20 cars on the lead lap. We already got 4 of them that are out of the race entirely. At some point, this has to have a long green flag run. When is it going to happen? And you got to start strategizing for that. But at the same time, you also got to keep in the back of your mind, we've already thinned the field a good bit, and we're still seeing a lot of cautions tonight. It's a tough spot to be in if you're one of those drivers trying to think of, is this going to be a fuel mileage race? Are we going to see a long run? Is it just going to continue to be short sprints where it's going to be who gets the best tire strategy at the end of the race, not even planning for it, but just happening to have the freshest tires at the end? This is just a paradox of a race at this point. You have no idea what you're going to see for the second half.
You know, we talked about this guy a little bit at the very beginning of the race because obviously he was the pole sitter, but we have not mentioned his name since. But James Holtzer is just sitting here in third place, just nice and quiet, and he's just sitting there waiting for his opportunity.
Yeah, and really this entire top 4, they haven't moved a whole lot, and it's just they've been running up front, keeping the car clean. It's for Dover standards, a boring race for these 4, for Smith, Lacey, Holtzer, and Brummett. And that's what you want. You don't want anything exciting to be happening around you, aside from maybe a couple passes here and there. But they've kept those cars clean. That's the position that they need to be in. I'm fairly certain, based on how this is running thus far, one of the winners of this race tonight will likely come from our top 4 at this point.
Well, in case people were wondering here, Jake Rowell still out there in the pits. He's been there for about 25 minutes, so that damage that he sustained on the wreck that he had was massive. And so he is going to be stuck in there in the pits for a while now. He does have 3 teammates out on the track. All 3 are in the top 15 right now, so he doesn't really have to worry too much about team points at this point. So he might not be in too big of a rush to get back out there because I think this may be one of his drop weeks, which is perfectly fine. And then, obviously, the team points right now are taken care of by James Holtzer, Dean Brummett, and Scott Healy.
Yeah, and for Jake Rowell, there's a handful of drivers, and he's one of them, where I think really the goal is get into the playoffs. And once you get there, you can trust your talent to help your way through it. But you just got to get there. It's not so much about being the top of the point standings through the regular season, though that does help. So I think that's a position where he gets a little bit more comfort here, knowing that he's going to be behind in this race. He does have the drop weeks, but it's been a rough start there for one of the favorites coming into the season as we get back underway.
Yeah, and as we're getting back underway, Timothy Latham getting down to the bottom here, trying to take a spot away from Reese Schaefer, trying to sneak one away. Won't be able to do it on that turn.
No, and that's a tough one there because you try to get that run on the inside early, but then you have to tighten up that car so much to get around a very, very short radius around 1 and 2, and that's already a tighter turn, I believe, in my opinion at least, just a little bit tougher to get a better run on. And so if you come in there low, it's very tough to really pull off that pass on the inside.
Landon Lacey not wasting any time, but we do have a yellow flag once again as Jordan Sailors is turned backwards on the track.
And he went out there Tom Cruise style and thought, I'll hit the pace car. So we've had a lot of cautions here tonight. This is our 9th one, averaging a caution every 10 laps at this rate. And it's Jordan Sailors this time as we go to yet another Beer Street Journal Rec replay, as they once again remind you to please drink responsibly, as this was an interesting point as it was going into the turn as we watched the 55 coming up on Mike Lewis.
And Lewis gets into the wall.
And, yeah, Mike just caught the wall, came right back down on the 55, and that just turned him straight into the wall. That's an unfortunate situation there for Jordan.
Yeah, just a little bit too much wall there for Mike Lewis. And you could see he was trying to get out there as far out as he could so he could get into this turn really good. Just got a little bit too far out there. And I believe that's Bo Brady as well that was involved. So just a rough race for Bo.
Rough race for Bo, rough race for Stryker there, because that's 2 Stryker cars caught up in that one now. And that was on the follow-through. Jordan Sailors just nowhere he could go on that. That's a helpless feeling. And what Mike was doing, I think there was a lot of giving him as much space as possible. But there's also a little bit of you do try to drift up against that wall as tight as you can going into the turn, just so you can get a better turn down through the turn to build up as much momentum as you can. And it's very easy to catch that wall going into the turn. Just because you're trying to do that, and sometimes it kicks you down at a weird rate. Sometimes it wants to be like a vacuum and just hold you up against the wall. It's always a little unpredictable when you catch that wall based on the angle that you get at it. But yeah, I think that's just an unfortunate break there, especially for Jordan Sailors.
We saw it a little bit earlier with Jacob Smith when he restarted in third, and you could see that he kind of took a different angle into the turn so that he could set up the car in front of him to really take a deep angle the following turn. And so it is very strategic out here. A lot of people think that racing is just going around in circles. It is nothing like that. It is extremely strategic, and you've already seen here tonight people spinning out themselves if they're coming off of a corner too hard. So you've got to work on the timing of your throttle. People that are making mistakes as far as just tagging other people, with slower speeds, that sort of thing, you have to be very aware. So there is just a lot of stuff to driving out here on the tracks. It is not just, put your foot on the pedal and go.
Yeah, there's a lot. And to add to it with Dover, you're going around a 1-mile racetrack on a slick concrete surface, and you're doing it at about 170, 175 miles an hour. You're going through the turns at 150 to 160, really depending on where you are on your tires and your confidence. Maybe a little bit lower, a little bit give or take there, but it's high speed around a 1-mile track that you're making a lap at around 22 seconds. If something happens around you, you have to react in a split second, basically, to avoid any trouble. And you have the fact that the cars are going to react unpredictably to where you normally expect cars to go, just because of the banking on the straightaways, the way that this track lays out. It is just a I was going to use another term that I shouldn't use. It starts with cluster to the mind of what you expect cars to do around you, and it just makes you just tighten up even more, makes you mentally drained just getting around this track because of how complicated it makes everything.
Yeah, it's so funny that a track that is so short is the track that causes the most trouble. You know, there should be fewer decisions to make out here, but it actually is completely the opposite. The shorter the track, the more decisions you have to make.
Yeah, and it's all about how close everybody is, bunched up at all times. It's also just the speed that you have, the rate of things that happen. The other part, too, and one thing we haven't really touched on, it's very easy to get into the wall coming out of 4 and 2. If you want to avoid it, you have to slow up at some point. If you do that, the other car behind you is probably coming up about 10, 15 miles an hour faster, and oh, by the way, they're barely hanging on to trying to keep that thing off the wall every single time as well. So it is a very unpredictable track. You have to know what everybody's doing around you, and it's almost impossible because nobody's really able to hit their marks perfectly every single time around this track, just with the nature of the layout.
Yeah, and you can see brake lights there on these cars. Those are not real, so you don't know if the person is tapping the brake or not. You don't have a clue. So just kind of be aware that you've got to be aware of everything around you all the same time. But Jacob Smith, once again, taking off on a great restart. And now we see James Holtzer kind of setting up Landon Lacey here, getting down to the inside. We'll see if maybe he can get second place, but not this time around.
No, but he had a great look at it, though. I thought that was the right angle and the right move and pacing going into that turn to pull it off. But Landon Lacey has just done so well about just putting his foot down and really sticking this car on every single turn. He might have the best grip out of anybody, even though he's not the leader right now. I really like the way that car is looking for the 35. That looks like a 53 because it is on the car. But Landon Lacey, he might have the best looking car out there right now, just with how well that thing wants to respond to him.
Yeah, Reese Schaefer gets around Dean Brummett there to kind of break up the James Holtzer Dean Brummett show there. And so now Reese Schaefer up into 4th position for Tank Racing.
Just another great run there for the rookie and the 17 car. Reese Schaefer making a name for himself, and second in points. He's only got James Holtzer ahead of him, and he's right there in front of him in our running order as well. So a great race for a couple of the guys leading the way here in the standings.
Looking back through the pack here a little bit, it looks like everybody has started to just line out. And again, that is a product of being the single file restarts, just trying to get a little bit more green flag racing going here. And we will see how long that lasts out here on the track. But this front 7 has kind of broken away a little bit as Emerson Ardon, who we spoke about a little bit earlier, had some damage going on, but he's up here in 8th position.
He's up there in 8th, and how about the guy right behind him, Kyle Benson, running what looks like a modified at this point with that whole nose missing. He's had penalties and some little controversy there, possibly a protest on an EOL penalty for a caused caution going on. And so we're not sure what might happen with him at the end of the night, but what we do know, this guy is not giving up. That 10 car moving right back into the top 10, running in 9th.
Yeah, doing a great job just sticking out there. And again, the rest of these cars back behind him, for the most part, all have damage too. They might not look as bad as his does, but everybody, it seems like, has got some damage except for about the front 6 or 7.
Yeah, and you saw that heavy damage to the back end of Emerson Ardon's 57, how wrinkled that car was before we cut away there. There really is only a handful of cars on the track that still look as clean as that 11 do, and they're all right there in that shot, going single file down that backstretch into turn 1. Front stretch, excuse me.
Yeah, this is certainly not going to be a friendly racetrack for those clean driver standings at all.
No, and yeah, it's very easy to pick up just one incident that'll get you those 4 points, possibly 2 points if you just like a lose control or hitting the wall. It does not take much to start growing that count pretty easily.
Right now, best race on the track. It looks like back here, Kyle Benson and Emerson Ardon going toe-to-toe still. And Seth Berger just looking on, trying to figure out which lane to choose.
And all 3 of these cars have pretty significant damage at some point. For Ardon and for Berger, it's at the back end of the car. For Benson, it's pretty much the entire car. And so none of those are going to be handling really all that well. and they're just making it work, fighting for some positions in that top 10. As Ardon currently holding that 10th spot. But just a great showing for them, just showing that resiliency.
Ty Cole back here battling with Christopher L. Lawrence as Christopher L. Lawrence gets out in front of him for that 16th position. So still some racing going on this track, even though, like we said, there's a ton of damage out there. Still a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and you still got to keep in mind, there's still 70 laps remaining here in this thing. So there's a lot of racing to go, and we see all these damaged cars. There's a good chance we're going to see a few more picking up additional damage. And, that, you know, if you can keep it on the track, keep clicking some laps away, you might pick up a few extra positions, just because I don't think we're done wrecking just yet.
Oh, no, definitely not here at Dover. No chance. But, yeah, Austin Reedy and Timothy Latham side by side here for the last couple of laps. Two incredible drivers side by side. Always fun to watch two pros really go at it.
Yeah, this is just great racing here. Just very smooth as they continue to go side by side for Latham and Reedy, giving each other that little bit of space on a track where there's not a whole lot of space that you can give. And they're still making it work, and that's even with that little bit of a diamond or a double apex that you saw with Reedy trying to pull off as he kind of dove it into 3, drifted it up just that little bit, and dove it back down. And Latham aware of that and giving that little bit of space. You're seeing the same here with Healy and Tucker, as you know that you're not going to be able to just pin it down against the apron the entire turn here. That's just not what works at Dover, as Craig Lautenschlager against that inside wall crawling at a slow pace. Hopefully we can avoid a caution here. So we've had a pretty decent run.
Yeah, we'll see if he decides to jump back into the pits or what the deal is there. It looks like he has either left the race or...
Yeah, he has disconnected, so he has dropped out of the race, it does appear.
Well, going back up front, so Dean Brummett here in 5th, working on Reese Schaefer.
So Reese is doing actually a really good job keeping that thing on the apron, or near the apron, which I was just saying is incredibly difficult to do. The amount of grip that he has to pull that off is very impressive. I'm worried about how that's going to affect tires later in the run if we stay green for much longer. But then as we ride on the 25 onboard camera, you can watch as Dean goes low, drifts it up, and then brings it back down towards that apron coming out of 4. And that's really the traditional way you want to see drivers handle this Dover track. Just builds up that momentum, and it keeps you a little bit more protected from drifting up into that wall coming out of the exit of the turn.
Another tight race back here. We got Ty Cole still working on Christopher L. Lawrence back here as they are just weaving back and forth trying to get the right position.
And good hard racing here back for 14th and 15th. Cole making that move to get clear. But I think it's more that he is stronger on the entry and Lawrence is stronger on the exit of these turns. And I think just being able to drive it that little bit deeper got him clear. It's going to be hard to make that pass, though. When you're stronger going into the turn, you can just pull away that little bit and just negate that stronger exit for the car behind you. And just with the way that everything happens here at Dover, you need to really sequence together turns to make a pass. And if you can't make that ground going into the turn, it's very difficult to really complete that pass around this track.
Back up here with Dean Brummett and Reese Schaefer still working it out up here, but Jacob Smith, while that's going on, has started to pull away a little bit by almost 0.7 of a second.
And this is what we were worried about with Landon Lacey and how well he was gripping to the track, but the pace that he carried as well was very hot early into these runs. And what we were saying was it looked like he was thinking, all right, we're going to see a lot of short sprints of green flag racing with a lot of cautions. First 80, 90 laps, he was on it, and that was correct. Exactly what we saw. But as this run goes longer and longer, we're starting to see what happens here with that hot pace and just really trying to pin it down a little bit more. It's just scrubbing those tires a little bit more than anybody else. And we're starting to see him drop back just slightly compared to the 11.
Yeah, and just slightly every lap means a lot as you get into the big scheme of things. But again, all these drivers will have to pit at least one more time. So as long as we stay green here, this might come down to when do you pit?
And the window is open. You can go those 60 laps without really having to save a whole lot. So we might see cars coming down at any point to try to gamble and really pull off this bit of an undercut, make up some ground here early, and see if it sticks. The gamble that you have on that, though, we've seen 9 cautions already in the first 90 laps of this race. Something is bound to go off again at some point, unless we get what we had on Thursday, where we just went on that supremely long green flag run for what we were expecting and what we were getting the first 90 laps of that race. So, I mean, if you take that gamble, try the undercut, and a caution comes out, you're buried 2 laps down as quick as everything goes around this 1 mile track.
Yeah, it is not going to take very much. So nothing has been completely decided here yet at all, but drivers are starting to get spaced out. The best race on the track still Reese Schaefer and Dean Brummett.
And I feel like they've been in the same exact position as we watched Brummett get loose there. Not sure if he caught the wall. Doesn't look like it, at least that time by. But definitely had a dicey moment there saving that car, and he drops back about 1/3 of a second after being really within 1/10 of a second of each other since this restart. That's been an interesting battle, just watching them almost kind of being very passive with each other of just, I'm going to stick near you. When you make a mistake, I'll be the one that makes that pass, or I'll pull away if you make a mistake. They've just been very just cautious with each other and just letting this thing play out a little bit.
Yeah, and that's really what this pit strategy will come into, is this is not the time to be making moves. This is the time to just maintain your position and depend on your pit strategy to do something well.
Yeah, and there's really not a whole lot of grip once you get 30 good green flag laps on these tires. And that makes it where this second half, you're going to have a little bit more looser of a condition because you're going to have less grip on the tires, but that back end of the car is also going to be lighter. The sim is very good about replicating that feel of once you start running low on fuel, that's weight that leaves the back of the car. It makes it easier for it to slip out from behind you very easily. Just because of the weight balance that you've lost. So it makes that feel happen. You combine that with the worn tires, super, super easy to lose control of this car.
Yeah, Joe Ruggles slow there on the bottom side of the track, just letting these cars go ahead and lap him again. But great racing here between these two as far as just kind of maintaining each other's pace, just kind of staying within shooting distance of each other. So that's all it takes. But going back a little bit further, you got Kyle Spees back here in 16th, and he is starting to work on Ty Cole as Ty wiggles a little bit coming off that corner.
Yeah, and a couple of drivers have had a rough night here, getting caught up in the follow-through of accidents. As you watch Kyle Spees in the 36, right behind him Scott Kalal in the 23, as they're trying to chase down another slightly damaged vehicle there with Ty Cole. And it feels like they're farther back than they are, but they're still fighting for spots in the top 15. Still a solid points day here. Just the amount of cars that we've seen dropped out, it feels like we're watching 2 entirely different races here. From mid-pack and then from the leaders.
You know, we're talking about cars that dropped out. One car that's back out on the track after being in the pits for 40 minutes, Jake Rowell, and he's got a hood on there. I mean, that's looking better than some of the drivers out here right now.
Yeah, it took some time, an extra few minutes here to get that car looking aesthetically correct as everything back on, and it's actually moving pretty good. He's running some solid lap times here. Still see a bit of damage there, though, as not everything is going to be completely repaired. But getting out there in 29th, 64 laps down. He's got Byron McDonald, the next car ahead of him, 7 laps up. You got to go another 5 laps for Raul Meza. So he's got some spots he can pick up for a few extra points here.
Yeah, already as far as team points are concerned, all 3 of his teammates are so far out in front of him that there's no way that he can pass them. So his team points will be decided with James Holtzer, Scott Healy, and Dean Brummett. So he doesn't have to worry about that. Now he's just focusing on the individual side.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe there's a little bit of just trying to be the guinea pig for certain things on fuel distance, on what something's going to feel like, or maybe just being an extra spotter on the track and kind of being like, hey, this is what's going on out here that you might not be able to see, just kind of communicating with his guys a little bit. Extra set of eyes and extra little bit there doesn't really hurt to have out on the track, even if you're not in contention to pick up many spots.
We're now on lap 129. Basically, we've gone 50 laps since the last pit stops, so we know we're getting awfully close to those pit stops right now as the top 5 basically hold serve. So Jacob Smith up in first, Landon Lacey in second, James Holtzer in third, Reese Schaefer in fourth, and Dean Brummett in fifth.
Almost had a total game changer with a caution coming out as I saw Joshua Balliet up against the wall. Kept it going, no caution on the track, but that was a moment where we almost saw that 10th yellow flying. But Jacob Smith, now a 2.5 clear on Landon Lacey, and this is playing out exactly like he wants. And something he is outstanding at is conserving tires while being in the lead. That's a tough skill because you're trying to get by all these lap cars. He's always great at conserving those tires. I think if this thing stays green, that is just a tough spot for anybody else to reel him in with the speed that he can have on long runs.
This feels a lot like Dylan Patterson on Thursday night, where he just kind of started to float away from everybody else. And one of the things that Dylan did, which was excellent, was there were a couple cars that decided to come in to kind of short pit a little bit, and Dylan decided, you know what, I'm going to go with you. And so he basically cut them off of their knees as they were trying to get an advantage on him. He said, no, I'm going to take the advantage right back. And it ended up working out really well, and he ended up winning that race. So we'll have to take a look and see how long it takes for Jacob Smith to pit once other people start pitting.
Speaking of, here comes the 11 of Jacob Smith on the pit road.
Power sliding.
Oh, that was a beautiful looking drift, but not exactly what you want going on the pit road, but he did it fast at least. Jacob Smith on the pit road, and nobody followed him that was directly behind him. And now it's going to be, all right, how long are we waiting for second, third, fourth, fifth place to make their pit stops? Here comes Austin Reedy, Timothy Latham. They're making their pit stops as well, trying to cut off that undercut a little bit as Jacob Smith into his pit stall. And that is another thing here. These cars going around the track, 150 to 170, pit road speed limit, 35. It feels like an hour and a half, like you're driving from Atlanta to Charlotte as you're on pit road. It is a long crawl down that stretch.
Gabriel Ellison coming in to get his services done as well. But Landon Lacey staying out there, and why not? You got nothing to lose out here, buddy. But there's no way he can make it because it would have to be almost 95 miles or 95 laps. I mean, which is 95 miles, but it would have to be just an insanely huge fuel run. So don't think he's going to try to stretch this thing. But that kind of begs the question: why is he waiting so long?
I mean, he could be thinking that the caution's going to come out, and especially when you get these green flag stops, the danger with those is you got cars going on the pit road, cars coming off the pit road. They're blending back in, they're blending off the track. You have different tires grip levels, so you got different speeds on the track, confidence levels. All of that stuff's going on at the same exact time around a very short track that is proven that it is prone to cautions. So at this point, you're thinking, and this is something similar to that I was thinking on Thursday, at some point during that sequence, a caution has to come out. It just feels like it's that 90% chance as Dean Brummett making his way down pit road. It just feels like the odds are saying it's going to happen. So you might as well take a shot that you're going to trap everybody at least 1 or 2 laps down and get that caution at the right point.
A little bit of a moment there between Kyle Spees and Landon Lacey, our leader. Kyle Spees has already come in for his pit stop, so he is much faster on the track. A little bit of a moment there as James Holtzer, Scott Healy, Seth Berger all come down into pit road as well. But Jacob Smith still a lap and a half down.
Yeah, and that's a dangerous position. He's going to be about a 1.5 seconds faster a lap, maybe a little bit more than that, than Schaefer, as we now have, we got the leader making their pit stop as Reese Schaefer has assumed the lead. So here's Landon Lacey making his stop.
Yeah, Reese Schaefer will get that bonus point for leading a lap, which could be huge for him.
Oh.
And that was a really close call there as Dalton Tucker speeds on past Reese Schaefer as Reese tries to get that thing woed up. But Dalton Tucker now will take that lead and get that bonus point as well. So those bonus points really do add up throughout the season. Lots of bonus points to earn.
And especially if you're somebody like Dalton Tucker that's way back in the standings. As he entered this race around 30th, 31st. I don't have that pulled up right now, but he was far back behind that cut line. So getting that extra bonus point, that can go a long way as the season ends.
Well, you saw Timothy Latham pass by really quickly. He's already taken his pit stop as well. Jacob Smith moving into the 4th position, but he is still, once again, a lap and a half down, just waiting for Dalton Tucker, Emerson Ardon, and Ty Cole to make their pit stops. Ty Cole last pitted on lap 92, so it would still be an incredible stretch for him to make it the rest of the way, but he still has a few more laps before he has to pit. So, again, one of those decisions under a caution that he came in a little bit at a different time as everyone else, and that might pay off if a caution comes out here.
Yeah, his cutoff point's going to be around 152 to 155. I think if you're conservative, you might be able to get to 65 laps on this tank. But I think going the rest of the way, that's something, even if he somehow had a glitch and was able to get the full 18-gallon fuel cell, still wouldn't be able to pull that one off. But now he's definitely just waiting to see if a caution comes out.
Yeah, it looks like Dalton Tucker slowing down to get into pits, so now only Ty Cole is out there in front of Jacob Smith that has not pitted. And so Jacob Smith right now actually not very far behind Ty Cole. So he is only about 5 seconds back and gaining extremely quickly. And so this could be Jacob's moment.
Yeah, and he should be able to get around pretty quickly, as you already see him about a second a lap faster and quickly approaching us now. Sorry, I was looking at Tucker's timer there. But same thing with Cole. It just threw me off watching that side time. But yeah, so for Ty Cole, maybe about 5 to 10 laps left. Wouldn't be surprised to see him come down pretty soon. But behind Jacob Smith, you're looking at a near 10-second gap back to James Holtzer. So Smith just pulled off a great strategy, getting up to speed with that undercut, and nobody really did a good job of protecting against that on that very next lap. And you can see the difference here with 9 seconds being the gap.
Yeah, certainly a huge risk by Jacob Smith coming in as early as he did, because he could have gotten caught a couple of laps down there, but it worked out perfectly for him, as here he comes to get right behind Scott Kalal, and then right in front of Scott Kalal, that's Ty Cole.
Yeah, and it will not take much, and Ty doing a good job just holding that thing on the outside, letting the 11 and the 73 as well make their way around. Dalton Tucker getting the lap back, but more importantly, Jacob Smith getting the lead back here with 28 laps to go.
Yeah, Dalton Tucker will be a lap down, and he is going to attempt to get that lap back the hard way, but on fresh tires here. So we'll see if Jacob Smith can hold him off any longer. Doubt he can here, so I think Dalton Tucker should just take that spot away as he goes down to the inside to do just that. And
that was something, too, when I had to make that late pit stop. Something that happened was my right side tires decided, even though they were unselected, to be changed anyway, so I had a little bit more grip. And when I came back out onto the track very late in that race, I pulled up right behind Dylan Patterson, and Dylan kind of got on the radio, and I was about to as well. But he was just like, "Are you on fresher tires?" "Yes." "All right." Well, just he held it up. A little bit of communication there, and then just knowing when people make those pit stops. There's a lot of apps that tell you when the last pit stop was made for the people around you, and if you have that, it's Ty Cole around the inside wall.
Hold on to it.
I think, wow, great save, and I think he just completely missed pit road and was trying to get in there. And it looks like that's what happened there. It's a difficult pit road to get into. A lot of drivers have to enter before they get into turn 3 and then just really kind of coast around the apron. It's difficult to come off the track, though, and straight into that pit stall just as quick as it comes. And it comes at a weird angle, being very close to the exit of 4.
Yeah, now James Holtzer has cut down the time between himself and Jacob Smith by about 3 seconds already. Holtzer came in 5 laps after Jacob Smith, so he does have the fresher tires, but I have a feeling this thing's going to level off fairly quickly, and Jacob's still going to have about a 5-second lead once everything levels off.
And also think about what they're having to deal with around him. Jacob Smith has been in traffic up until this point, really since he made that pit stop, and having all those different tire levels around him as well. But what the benefit of that for James Holtzer, those cars that have been passed by Jacob Smith, they're already a lap down, or they're about to be a lap down, depending on when he caught them in that run. But just with all these things that are going on, it's easier for second place. You can just go right by that lap traffic for the most part. They're not going to put up as much of a fight, and that's where you're going to shave off some time compared to the leader.
Yeah, Jacob Smith, everybody getting into lap traffic now, really. With those green flag pit stops, everything got jumbled up. And so really right now only 9 cars on the lead lap right now, which is just not much at all. Yes, there's a ton of damage out there, but really a lot of that has come by just brilliant driving by Jacob Smith.
And this has really started to feel like an early 90s or earlier than that type of race where, 9 cars on the lead lap. Watch Seth Berger trying to make his way around the 11 of Jacob Smith and make it 10 cars on that lead lap. But this is an old school feeling race in the second half of this thing. It's been a long green flag run, and we've just seen this field just really stretch out. And it's been down to who's making the fewest amount of mistakes.
You know, another thing to keep in mind here, there is a bonus point if you run a clean race. This is Dover. Most people won't run a clean race. I believe Jacob Smith has at this point. I don't see any damage on him at all. So if he can preserve that, he could get even another bonus point to work his way towards the top of the standings.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at how clean that car is. James Holtzer with a very clean car as well. I think at most we might only have a handful of drivers at 0 incident points. But yeah, Jacob Smith keeps that car clean, keeps that car consistently hitting his marks better than anybody really has today from start to finish on these longer runs. And just really showing why he's out in front. And it just comes down to that clean consistency with that 11 car.
Yeah, and it looks like we were saying earlier, the time gap between Jacob Smith and James Holtzer has kind of leveled off there at about 5 seconds. And so as long as that green stays out here, I just don't see a scenario where Holtzer catches him under green.
No, it's gonna either take a caution or it's gonna take a lot of jammed up traffic in front of the 11 of Jacob Smith, and I think that's part of that leveling off too, is he hasn't had to pass any of the lap traffic and have that fight in front of him. He's getting that push from Seth Berger behind, but that's fine. He's still running his pace as he wants to run it, and so I think he's doing just fine as long as there's no lap cars in front.
Speaking of a fight, look at that fight between Austin Reedy and Dean Brummett battling back and forth for that 4th position, and Austin Reedy will walk away with it.
Austin Reedy really coming into this race as it goes, and there might be a caution.
Christopher Lawrence spinning on the track, and the caution comes out for the 10th time, erasing a 5-second lead for Jacob Smith.
Oh, man, I hate the cliche, but it is accurate here. This one will change everything on the track as that 99 goes around. I think he had a little bit of help there. They're going side by side. We'll find out on the Beer Street Journal Rec Replay. 10th time tonight. They'll remind you to please drink responsibly, as there's a few drivers tonight that might be wanting to have one of those drinks after this race. So we watch Christopher Lawrence on the inside there in the 99. Gets up. I believe that's going to be... No, it was not Spees. It was behind him. That's Dalton Tucker in the 73. And they just got together. Tucker kind of got pinched between the 99 and the wall, and the 99 is the one that gets turned around in that process.
Yep, just not enough room for Tucker to get all the way through there. And I'm not sure whether 99 was coming up or if Tucker was coming down, but just a little get-together out there on the track. But that has changed the entire scope of this race.
Yeah, and one other thing that has changed, just had the announcement and the change made from the admins. We are going back to double file restarts in this final finish of the race, and I like that call. Add a little bit of excitement, add a little bit more passing opportunities. The one person that will not like that is Jacob Smith, who that is a huge advantage to be losing, going from that single file start as they make their pit stops, and the 11 will once again come out in the lead.
Yeah, big call there to make those pit stops. So I figured that some people would stay out, and actually Seth Berger did stay out. So we will see if he decides to come into the pits here this time around. But Jacob Smith, brand new fresh tires, and he is out there in front just a little bit of James Holtzer. So we will see what happens there. But Seth Berger looks like he may be coming into the pits here.
Yeah, he definitely making his way back in, or at least letting the 11 by. Not sure if they're... Because when He was behind him, I believe, when the caution came out, so there might be a thing there. But there comes the 77 down pit road, and so the 11 will for sure be out in front on this restart. And he'll have James Holtzer beside him. Landon Lacey and Austin Reedy are going to be in the row behind. I'm so excited to see this double file come back because I think it's going to make this finish just that much better and that much more interesting.
So you got teammates Jacob Smith and Austin Reedy in first and fourth positions right now. So if I'm Jacob Smith, or if you're Jacob Smith, Brandon, which lane do you choose?
I think at this point you have to say no on team cooperation if you're not comfortable on the outside. It's late enough. You're leading the race. You're the one that can control that. It's great if you're comfortable and you can help out your teammate and possibly get an extra spot or two. But if I'm more comfortable inside and I'm the leader and that's thrown out there, I'm taking the inside. It is way too late in the race to do anything uncomfortable.
Well, we will find out what that decision is here very shortly. And, man, we are going to get a nice little probably 12-lap sprint to the finish line. And a sprint is what it's going to be. These top 5 cars have been absolutely fantastic all night long. Jacob Smith, James Holtzer, Landon Lacey, Austin Reedy, and Dean Brummett have been up there in that top 5 pretty much the entire night.
Yeah, and I mean, Reedy has gone back a little bit and then back up front, showing the ability to pass cars. But Smith, Holtzer, Lacey, and Brummett, those 4 have been in the top 5. Aside from pit stop sequencing, has been in the top 5 all night long. And it's tough for me to see anybody aside from those 4 winning. But Austin Reedy, man, he just keeps moving his way back up front, showing some good speed in passing cars. That's a bit of a wild card here in this finish, just with that ability, despite how well all those other 4 in the top 5 have done tonight from the start.
I gotta say, let me show you what a champion looks like. His car is messed up, but the champ is still up there in the top 10. He's actually up in 7th position on those fresh tires. He still has a shot at this thing, and so champions aren't always the nicest cars on the track. It's just the ones that refuse to quit.
Refuse to lose was a popular slogan there for quite a few teams, most notably the old 24 Rainbow Warriors in the 90s that won all those titles. That was a slogan of theirs, refuse to lose. And I think part of that is refuse to lose as many points as you probably would lose if you weren't staying out there and getting the job done. And speaking of getting the job done, we got the restart done as the 11 takes off and clears Holtzer in a hurry.
Yeah, and that was a big restart for Jacob Smith. It looked like he chose that bottom side a little bit later on in the decision. Not sure if that made a problem. Oh, my goodness. Landon Lacey wiggling it.
Wow, and that was a scary moment for Dean Brummett right behind him as well, as those cold tires and trying to push in this final short sprint to the finish just do not match well sometimes around this Dover mile. And Landon Lacey trying to hold off the 17 of Reese Schaefer, who's fighting for that 4th position.
Yeah, keep in mind how good Landon Lacey's been on these short runs all night long, and all of a sudden he's having this little bit of trouble where he is just coming off the corner and losing it. Not sure what's going on there. But all these cars starting to get shuffled up. But up front, Jacob Smith trying to put a little bit of distance between himself and Holtzer. Not working just yet.
Holtzer a little bit faster in 3 and 4. The last couple laps, a little bit slower in 1 and 2. They look identical if you just look at the track, but if you really feel the track out, they are pretty different turns and just how they want to grip around that tight concrete radius. But now we got one sliding behind them. Scott Healy went full-on 90-degree drift around 1 and 2, gets it straightened back out, and no caution on the track.
Yeah, that was Jake Rowell right behind him, about 65 laps down, but still looking to get around this track as best as he possibly can in that car. But Jacob Smith gets about half a second between himself and Holtzer as we come to 7 to go.
Yeah, and the best friend of Jacob Smith right now is probably Scott Healy, as he saved that thing from going to caution, because that 11 car starting to come alive here on this run after the first couple of laps, and making that gap reappear between he and the 42 Holtzer.
And right now, the closest battle on the track right here, Dean Brummett trying to break into the top 5 by passing Landon Lacey here, trying to get into that money.
Yeah, and that's a little bit of a surprise that any of that Lacey, Brummett, Holtzer, Smith combination is sitting outside the top 5 at this point. But Dean Brummett, the odd man out in that 6th spot, as he's got Latham and Tucker behind him and closing in on trying to join this fight for 5th as well.
Jacob Smith still leads this thing. His teammate Austin Reedy up in 3rd. So going to be a big point day for Murray Reedy Smith Road Racing, and they were relatively new this year, and so they're not all the way down the standings, but they're not up towards the top either. They need these points, and they're going to get them.
And hey, that announcement of all 3 of those names coming together to fully merge the team, that didn't happen until last week's race. And so they're still feeling each other out, but individually they've got the talent. And I think we're starting to see that here. This team is going to be a formidable threat as the season goes on.
Oh, if Jacob Smith is here next week as well, then it is going to be tough to see anyone take him on out there. I just don't know of anyone out there on the track right now that is the same caliber as him on the road races. And so if he wins this race, then, man, if Vegas had odds on this thing, then I'd be putting a lot of money on Jacob Smith to go back-to-back.
Oh, yeah. He's really the equivalent of Chase Elliott in a lot of ways. Can win on the ovals, especially some of the ones like a Dover or a Bristol, those tracks that you feel comfortable at. Chase is the same way on ovals, but when it comes to the road courses, you will always look at them first.
What do we have here? A yellow flag. Jake Rowell and Seth Berger getting into one another, it looks like.
Oh, no, and that was about a second away from Jacob Smith taking the white flag.
Oh, Rowell is destroyed.
Oh my goodness, that is a heartbreaker for Jacob Smith, who saw the white flag in the air but did not get to the line before the caution comes out for the 11th time.
And it looks like Honeycutt is there. And Honeycutt, gets to the back bumper of Rowell.
Looked like Rowell might have gotten a little sideways. There might have had some net code going into the turn. Yeah, there's that little bit of contact there. That explains the sideways part. As, he
Seth
just Berger,
lost it. Nowhere to go. What a great run by Seth. What a great run by Seth Berger all night.
Yeah.
Just destroyed there.
That's twice he's been in the follow-up of something. And, yeah, you just see that contact. Just different entry speeds getting into one, and that's pretty common, and just kind of 2 cars meeting at one spot. But either way, we are going to have our first green-white checker of the night, and I say first, and that's partly because I think it might not be the only one we see around here.
Oh, wow. Rough race there for Jake Rowell, and again he was in the finals last season in the playoffs. Ended up in 5th place, getting a lot of damage in that last race, no fault of his own, and ended up in 5th in the championship. But still, he is expected to be a little bit higher up the list than where he is right now, even though he's already still in the top 15. Yeah,
it's just been a more roller coaster type of season for him. As Jacob Smith maybe trying to do a little bit of bait there, and that's exactly what he's doing. He tried to see if anybody will bite. I don't think anybody's going to give up that track position here at this point. Not like they pitted 50 laps ago, so no real advantage to coming in at this point. Nobody really biting, but always worth the effort. So A for effort there to Jacob Smith.
Wow, what a turn of events here as Jacob Smith had that race pretty much won coming up to the white flag, and then that wreck happening back there in the back of the pack. So a lot of probably a lot of feelings there right now.
Yeah, but I mean at this point you just got to know if you're Jacob Smith, all right, I've been great on these restarts. I've been able to pull away pretty immediately on most of the jumps that he's had since he's been the leader and controlling these restarts. Got to have that confidence that you can do it at least one more time here and just recreate that. If you get to the white flag, which will only take about 24 seconds, including that getting up to speed, if you can pull away those 0.6 of a second on the restart, you got this race won if it stays green.
Well, James Holtzer trying to go back-to-back here, and he's going to have another opportunity at it as he was half a second down. And again, then got that lucky break for that caution flag. So his teammate involved in that caution, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that, I mean, he's got a second life in this race though because of it. That half-second gap was not going to be made up. And if you're Holtzer, it all comes down to this restart. Like I was saying, if you have the confidence, if you're Jacob Smith, the confidence in being able to get the jump, if you're James Holtzer, you got to have the confidence that you know you can react at the right point and keep this thing side by side. And at that point, it's going to be who can stick it deeper into the turn and actually hit the exit at that same time. And at that point, that's anybody's ball game, because it's interesting getting around this track with pressure and with trying to hold a higher pace when you're going side by side. Very difficult to do.
This will be the biggest restart of the entire race, as all of those cars just looking to gain positions as quickly as possible. If we do get to the white flag, then great, they need those positions. But if we don't get to the white flag and we have another caution, they want that much of a better restart position next time around.
Yeah, it only helps to be going faster around here and gaining the positions at this point. Track position being everything. And yeah, I mean, you just got to gun it here on this restart, try to get that jump perfectly. And if it works, great. And if there's another caution, hey, you're still moving up.
Hey, we got teammates lined up on the bottom. Jacob Smith and Austin Reedy there are teammates. And so that could play a factor too. But no, James Holtzer gets a great restart there and is actually able to get past Austin Reedy fairly easily, as Jacob Smith trying to hold him off for 1.5 more laps. Let's see if he can get this thing done.
So about 3 wide and 1 and 2 for about 7th place. So we almost saw this thing go back to caution, but not happening, as they did a great job sorting that out. And it's Jacob Smith taking the white flag.
And here we go, last lap. James Holtzer's got to put everything he's got into it. But the way that Jacob Smith has been hitting his marks, I just don't see how... Oh, and we got some trouble. Landon Lacey turned.
Landon Lacey gets turned around. We saw a handful of others get caught up here on the backstretch, but not affected.
Jacob Smith takes the checkered flag here at Dover.
Wow, what a very Dover-fitting finish there, with all kinds of carnage on the backstretch on the final lap. But Jacob Smith led 177 of 200 laps last season, and his win here tonight, right up there among the most laps led as well, and gets it done at 175 miles as well.
Jacob Smith, the king of Dover once again, as I think Austin Reedy was just kind of trying to give him some space there, but teammates all out there spinning it out, having a great time right now, and well-deserved.
Very well-deserved. We're going to have 2 of those Murray, Reedy, Smith road racing drivers up here for our interviews here in a moment. But we'll take a look at the race results here on a very carnage-filled 175 miles at Dover. Jacob Smith, your race winner, representing Murray, Reedy, Smith Road Racing. James Holtzer, the second-place driver for the 3rd consecutive week. He'll have a top 2 finish. Austin Reedy will be 3rd. Timothy Latham in 4th, and Dean Brummett rounding out the top 5.
Yeah, Reese Schaefer with a great showing for Tank Racing there in 6th. Dalton Tucker in 7th for Rev Reloaded. Scott Healy with a damaged car pretty much the entire race up there in 8th for Royal Motorsports. Gabriel Ellison with another damaged car there, and not something you see very often from him, but Rev Racing in 9th and 10th with Kyle Spees as well.
And 11th place will be the last driver on the lead lap, Emerson Ardon, getting that done for Tank Racing. 12th will be Landon Lacey, who got caught up in that last lap accident. Seth Berger will be our 13th place finisher. 1 lap down for John Honeycutt in 14th, and then behind them multiple laps down on back, starting with 15th place Jeffrey Vickery.
Yep, David Duke in that minivan vacations car. New paint for him, 9 laps down, but back in 16th. Jordan Sailors in 17th place for R&D Motorsports. And then Joshua Balliette rounds out our top 18 for Tank Racing.
Well, a lot of damaged cars, but 3 of the ones that still look pretty darn clean. Those top 3 drivers with Jacob Smith, James Holtzer, Austin Reedy, and they were really the class of the field in a group of 5 that just had a fantastic night all night.
Well, let's get Austin Reedy up here in the booth and talk to him about his 3rd place finish. Austin Reedy, Sean, and Brandon up here in the booth, buddy. How's it going?
Not the way I wanted to end, but it's going all right.
Hey, man, third place finish, still a podium. Not bad at all. And your teammate takes home the victory there. So definitely got some points on the board.
Yeah. Congrats to Jacob there winning it. I can't say I'm sorry enough to land in there. I got really loose coming out of two there in that last lap, and I mean I'm not gonna lift and just give up a spot. And I came down and doored him, hit the wall, and came back down the track. It's the last thing I wanted to do to him. He was fast all night, and I don't know. Congrats to Jake though.
Yeah, that's always a tough spot, getting caught up in something there on that last lap. But if it's something that tonight, we saw 4 drivers really were just kind of up there the whole race, and it looked like you kind of had a little bit more of a exciting run there. I saw you back a couple spots there at one point, but it felt like you had the best ability of getting around cars around here. And where's that comfort level come from for you, just getting around a track where it's very difficult to pass?
I think it's just I've had a lot of races here, and I know the track, I know the line, and it's a lot of just saving your tire and just a lot of luck. A lot of luck was implemented tonight. A lot of cautions for the first half of that race, and we got damage early, but we rebounded, got it fixed, and found ourselves within the top 10 about 100 laps ago, and got that one green flag run, and that really settled it from there.
Hey, man, that's all it takes is one really, really good run to really set yourself apart there. Now, we are headed on our way to the Roval next week, and we're going to have one really, really long run because there's no cautions there. How do you feel going into that race?
Yeah, that race is going to be tough. I'm never a factor at those road courses. Me, myself, just trying to find my own composure there and find my rhythm. But we'll have to see how it goes. We're going to put in some practice here and hopefully have a decent finish.
Well, you probably have the best teammate out there for the road courses, obviously, with Jacob Smith. Hopefully, or for him, hopefully trying to bring back that road championship once again. But man, anybody you'd like to thank here before we let you get back down to your team tonight?
Yeah, More Than a Cape is the foundation on my car. You can check them out on morethan-a-cape.org. Great cause for children's cancer, and all my winnings tonight, I think it's another 15, will go straight to their foundation, so always glad to do that.
Man, that is a great thing for you, and we appreciate you doing that, and certainly appreciate everybody there at More Than a Cape. Definitely go check them out and donate to their cause. But Austin, we will see you next week as we head to the Roval, and we'll see if we can get you back up here in the booth here soon.
All right, appreciate it.
Take care. All right, let's head on down to Roella Motorsports where we will get our second place finisher, James Holtzer, up here. A second place, a first place, and a second place finish on the first 3 weeks of the season. So not bad. Excuse me, not bad.
Not bad at all.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
So tell us about the race here tonight.
This place is a challenge. Lots of different factors throughout the race, with, short runs, long runs. I really just didn't know how I wanted to push the car because I didn't know what the tempo of the race was going to be. Track position was huge. When I was, when I was behind Landon Lacey there and Jacob Smith, I I wasn't getting tight, but it was like you could just feel the air just was like it was like a bubble. Like, you just couldn't get there. Even, like, at the end there, like, when I was trying to make a move on Jacob Smith there, I could get to his bumper, but as soon as I had to rotate to the corner, you couldn't rotate. It was way better than last season, though, because it wouldn't rotate at all, and I had a really bad race last year here. I think I finished way many laps down. So, huge improvement with Kansas and Dover being 2 bad races for us last year. Bringing those home first and second is crucial. But we got a really long green flag run there, and I had a very smooth and conservative pit road entry. I'm not sure why Landon stayed out so far. He didn't have any breaks from the lap cars from what I was hearing over the radio. But either way, I even think if it was clean slate, I don't think he would have got back just because the tires were starting to level off. So we were in P2 there, and then crazily, coming to the white flag, the leader was across the line already, and the caution come out, and like, oh, here we go. Like, I'm just waiting for tire spin, or because we were all out of tires. The whole entire field was out of tires, so everyone was. Then bed was made, and they went back to double foul restarts, so it was changed from single foul, and Now I'm thinking, oh, I'm stuck on the outside. If I spin the tires, I'm really falling back here. So was just really trying to nail the restart and nailed it. Like I said, I could get there, just couldn't get there. I really burnt my stuff up when we got that caution at like 10 to go. I was just trying everything I could. The car was all over the place, just trying to catch him. I was trying not to wreck myself at the same time, because P2 is nothing wrong with that, and it's likely that Jacob Smith, I don't think he'll be running for a championship this season, so not really anything really to worry about. So it's puts us first among the Cup Series regulars in all 3 races. So nothing to complain about there. Definitely a strong start.
Well, so it's a great start. 3 straight top 2s for you here to start the season. Got the Roval next week. But before we get to that, is anybody that you want to thank here this week with that second place finish here? Once again, a strong showing.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, always got to thank you guys in the booth for a fantastic show. It's always a blast to watch, and my friends and family also enjoy watching it. So it's great that you guys put that on. Got to thank RMS once again for this opportunity to be running with them. Great team. We just work really well together. We did a 6-hour race yesterday at Talladega for a charity event with 5 of our teams, and 3 of us were in the top 5. So just like we really pride on teamwork in RMS, and if there's somebody that's struggling somewhere at a track, we make sure we break it down. We rise and we fall together as a team, and that's what makes us something special. Also got to thank Laurel Auto Group for being on the car, and JP Designs. Check them out on Facebook. Paint schemes starting at $5, and they also have other packages as well. He designs all the schemes that I run in SRN. So, and yeah, you were saying too about Roval next week. Really haven't run many laps in the Cup car here. I put in maybe 30 or so the other night, just trying to feel out the car, and wasn't really any long run speed. Was just trying to figure out marks, and I think we're going to be okay. RMS is a pretty good road course team. With Jake Roel, myself, Scott Healy, and Dean Brummett. We'll all feed off each other, and we'll figure out what to do. We'll be ready to go next week. Really just trying to keep this 0X train going, because this is awesome. Never would dream to be through 3 races, especially like Kansas and Daytona and Dover with 0X. It's like a miracle.
Well, man, keep it up, and we will see you next week as we head it to the Roval and see if you can keep this streak alive.
We're going to try our best. Thanks, guys.
All right, buddy. Take care.
You too.
All right, let's check out our winner, Mr. Jacob Smith, as we pull him up into the broadcast booth here with us. Jacob Smith, welcome up to the broadcast booth with myself, Sean Griffith, and Brandon Domingue. Congratulations, buddy.
I appreciate it. That was a really exciting race tonight.
It looked exciting out there. We talked about it during the broadcast. You're one of those drivers that once you get out front, it's just no catching you at that point because you're so good at hitting your marks. Does that come from your road course experience?
Well, part of it's the road course, but part of it at Dover, it kind of was the same last year. Once you get out front, and having clean air is key at a track like this, especially with this current aero package. If you're stuck behind anybody, this track is so hard to pass. So I think it was just a combination of that, just capitalizing on other people's mistakes here and there. You just have to jump on them when you can get them, and there's nothing else you can do. It's just kind of hope for it to stay green on the long run, and that's what we had, and it ended up working out for us.
Well, the biggest question I had late in the race in my mind was how many swear words and words you can't say on this broadcast were going through your mind when that caution came out as you were exiting turn 4, about to take the white flag. How did that factor into everything? It seemed like it didn't bother you. Obviously, still wound up in victory lane, but that had to be a pretty dicey moment there.
Yeah, we were talking in our team chat. We kept saying how we can't afford to have the yellow come out. Austin was sitting in a good spot. I think he pretty much had P3 locked up, but yellow came out right at the last second, and it was a little scary on the restart. But once we got out front and had a little bit of clean air, the battle with Holtzer was on. But I think we managed to stay in front pretty well.
Well, man, you did a great job out there. I can't wait to see what you do next week if you come back for the Roval. And your team is starting to really gel together. Got a lot of good team points out there. Don't know if you're watching right now on the screen, but we are going to go ahead and put that winner sticker up there right next to your name. Congratulations on that. But do you have any sponsors you'd like to thank before we let you go?
I just wanted to shout out the whole SRR team and Murray Reedy for partnering with us this year. I appreciate my former teammates giving me plenty of room out there tonight. And I just want to say that I was donating the winnings tonight to Sadie's Fund from SRN's last season. I just wanted to make sure that all the winnings this season that I get go towards her.
Definitely, man. That is good on you. Congratulations once again. Hopefully we'll see you here next week at the Roval, but we'll definitely hopefully see you later on this season here in Victory Lane. So great job tonight, and we will see you next time, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
So we will drop him back down into his chat. Brandon, that race, it started off with cautions all over the place, got a great green flag run there towards the end, and then ended up with a little bit of drama too.
Yeah, and it's funny how that really is the story in all three of the series this week at Dover. Heavy on the cautions in the first half of the race, and then you see in a lot of green flag runs for that second portion of things around Dover, and it really cleaned itself out in the second half of the race. So interesting way on everything ending. Jacob Smith, definitely the dominant car tonight. Good to see that 11 get to Victory Lane, and definitely one of the favorites for next week when we hit the Roval.
Man, it is going to be a great race next week at the Roval. I always love these road courses just because there's constant action out there. There is no slowing down because there's no yellow flags. So you're going to see some really good stuff out of these Cup cars. But don't wait until Sunday. Come on back on Wednesday, and let's take a look as the Truck Series goes 90 miles around the Roval. Doesn't sound like a lot, and it's really not a lot, but it is a long, long track with a lot of turns.
And we talk about the mental strain that these drivers had going around Dover and how quickly everything happens. Road courses take it to another level, and the intricacies of the Roval being added onto that, it just makes it step up even more, going onto the very flat portions of the infield, onto the banking, the transitions, a whole lot there that you don't see at traditional road courses. Makes the Roval just that much more exciting.
Man, it is going to be a great race. Can't wait to get there on Wednesday. But until then, everybody out there, from everybody here at SRN, all of our sponsors, all of our team members, definitely all of our broadcast team, as well as our admins as well. Thank you so much for watching this week. And as always, go faster.